Warrior Lore. Chapter 5:15. All students, listen up. Tianwu Academy is facing an unprecedented calamity. You are the inheritors of Tianwu Academy and the final hope for Tianwu Academy. The responsibility of passing down the torch of Tianwu Academy lies in your hands. In a moment, a spatial teleportation array will be activated. Instructors will lead you out in batches. Starting from the freshmen, you are not allowed to make a ruckus. Elder He, whose voice reverberated across the plaza. His voice was infused with profound energy, and it was sufficient for all the students present to hear him clearly. Calamity? Why would there be a calamity? What happened to the academy? Why would there be a calamity? What is going on? Who dares to go against Tianwu Academy? In an instant, even though the elders had strictly forbidden any ruckus, the students were still shocked when they heard that the academy was facing a calamity. Inner elders, please activate the spatial teleportation array. After Elder He who spoke, Elder Sun Biwa looked at the night sky and said respectfully, Hong Long Long. Right at this moment, dazzling inscriptions appeared within Tianwu Academy. Terrifying ripples of energy spread out, causing the earth to quake and the air to tremble. That majestic aura struck fear into the hearts of all the students present. Amidst the rumbling of the earth, their bodies shuddered and their hearts palpitated in fear. Chi-Chi. Right at this moment, dozens of light pillars shot out from the square of the Tianwu Talisman Zone. Under the majestic aura, they gathered high in the sky. In an instant, the intense light was like a sun in the sky, illuminating the entire Tianwu Academy. It extended into the dark forest, and its aura gradually spread out in all directions. In the forest outside Tianwu Academy, thousands of figures were looking in the direction of Tianwu Academy. The majestic aura and dazzling light were sufficient to startle the surroundings. Kiki, they do have some foundation. Spatial teleportation array. To think that they really have a spatial teleportation array. Fortunately, we have made preparations beforehand. We must eliminate all of them. The leader of the group was an old man wearing a mask. His eyes were cold and murderous, and his aura was sinister. Chi-la-la, as the earth quaked and the mountains swayed. In the sky above the plaza outside the heavenly martial talisman realm, dazzling mysterious runes surged within the sun-like radiance, causing the entire sky above the plaza to suddenly distort. At the same time, a huge spatial door formed by mysterious runes appeared in front of the heavenly martial talisman realm plaza. Spatial wrinkles appeared in the surrounding space, and spatial waves rippled in all directions. It was as if an ancient giant beast had suddenly awakened, opening its malevolent mouth, wanting to devour the entire plaza. It's the legendary spatial teleportation array. I never thought that our Tianwu Academy would have such an array as well. Gu Xinyan's eyes were filled with astonishment. What is a spatial transfer array? Du Xiaofu asked curiously as he looked at the spatial door formed by mysterious runes. It actually tore space apart, and the majestic aura it emitted caused Du Xiaofu's mind to ripple the more he looked at it. It was as if he had fallen into a boundless space, and his soul was trapped in it. A spatial transfer array requires at least an 8-star talisman master to be able to construct it. It is able to connect 2 points in space and travel between 2 places. However, there are very few talisman masters who are able to construct a spatial transfer array. They require a certain understanding of special techniques. It is rumored that the most powerful spatial transfer array can travel unhindered through the entire central region, but that is just a legend. I reckon that such a spatial transfer array does exist, but activating it once would consume the resources of an empire. Gu Xinyan explained to Du Xiaofu. The first batch of freshmen, prepare to enter the spatial transfer array. In the spatial transfer array, numerous instructors were shuttling back and forth, arranging for the freshmen to enter the spatial transfer array. The gate of the spatial transfer array was probably unable to transport too many students. At this moment, there were at least tens of thousands of students in the entire square. It would take more than 1 or 2 rounds of teleportation for all of them to enter the spatial transfer array. Under the instructions of the instructors, the freshmen began to line up and enter the spatial transfer array. Many of the freshmen were still in a daze and didn't understand what was going on. Under the instructions of the instructors, They gradually lined up and entered the spatial transfer array. Du Xiaofu, come with me. The elders of the inner court want to see you. At this moment, Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang's voice rang out in Du Xiaofu's ears. As Du Xiaofeng raised his head, Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang had already leaped into the air and left. Little Blue, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, wait for me here. Don't run around. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, profound energy surged beneath his feet, and he left with Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang. At this moment, dawn had already passed. In the sky, there seemed to be something stirring up the night clouds in the eastern horizon. Along with the faint flickering of a silver halo, it enveloped the entire horizon. The sky above Tianwu Academy was shrouded in mist, and the sky was bright. Under the cover of the morning sun, there was an ancient green pagoda hidden in the surrounding rocky valleys. This was the depths of Tianwu Academy, and no student of Tianwu Academy had the qualifications to enter this place. Even if they wanted to find it, it would be difficult. Du Xiaofu followed Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang into the ancient pagoda. The interior of the pagoda was vast, and there were over 10 ancient praying mats. At this moment, there were no less than 20 elderly figures sitting on them. Every single one of them looked old, but their eyes were bright and deep. An invisible aura spread out from them, causing the space in the pagoda to show signs of distorting. This is the number of words that can be typed on the train. Brothers, please forgive me. I will definitely return what I owe you. There are many matters at home, and my grandmother is gravely ill. Please forgive me. Chapter 5:16. They are all experts. These are the most powerful people in the entire academy. As Du Xiaofu entered the main hall, he sensed no less than 20 faint auras fluctuating. Among them, no less than half were Martial King realm cultivators and 6-star spiritual talisman masters. The rest were all at the perfection of the Martial Marquis realm, and most of them were at the peak of the perfection of the Martial Marquis realm. This made Du Xiaofu's heart tremble. Du Xiaofu's eyes swept across the old faces. Du Xiaofu also saw the Great Elder and Second Elder. The Third Elder was also sitting among them. However, at the most central position, there was a 100-year-old man sitting cross-legged. He looked like he was about to die. Although his hair was black, his face was already withered. He sat on the praying mat, appearing extremely thin and withered. He wore a plain robe on his body. It felt like a large robe covering a scarecrow in the fields. What powerful strength! He must be an expert. Facing this old man who looked like he was about to die, no aura spread out from his body. However, for no reason, Du Xiaofu felt an inexplicable tremble. When he glanced at the old man, it was as if he had suddenly fallen into a bottomless whirlpool. His entire body trembled. Du Xiaofu, these are the elders of the inner academy. They are the protectors of the academy. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang introduced them to Du Xiaofu after entering the hall. Student greets the elders of the inner academy. Du Xiaofu already had some guesses in his heart. Therefore, when he heard Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang's introduction, he did not find it strange. Instead, he was slightly surprised. He did not think that there would be so many experts in the academy. This was the strongest force in the entire academy. This is the Grand Elder of Huiyu, the only remaining elder of the academy's headmaster. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang arrived beside the old man who looked like he was about to die. He sat cross-legged on an empty old praying mat. Greetings, Grand Elder Huiyu. Du Xiaofu respectfully bowed. He was extremely respectful in front of this group of elders of the academy. As Du Xiaofu's voice sounded, Grand Elder Huiyu's withered face slightly raised. His eyes were as deep as the stars. After looking at Du Xiaofu for a while, he said with an old voice, "You are indeed extraordinary. As expected of the extraordinary little fellow's son, you have surpassed him. Grand Elder, you are too polite," Du Xiaofu softly said. At this moment, he was feeling a little pressured under the gazes of such a group of old men. This was especially so when he faced Grand Elder Qingyu, whose words caused his heart to inexplicably tremble. From the words of this Grand Elder Qingyu, it seemed that she was also acquainted with his drunkard father. Du Xiaofu, do you know why we asked you to come to the inner academy? The first elder asked. He was dressed in a gray robe, and his white hair reached his shoulders. He looked extremely old. His eyes were grave and his brows were tightly knitted. Du Xiaofu shook his head and cupped his hands towards the first elder. First elder, please tell me what exactly happened in the academy. Everything is an unavoidable fate. Sooner or later, there will be such a day. Who would have thought that this day would happen to us? The first elder sighed softly. His aged face looked at Du Xiaofu as he said with a serious expression, although your father is ranked second on the Academy's bounty list, us old people know about your father's feelings and intentions towards the Academy. Otherwise, I'm afraid that your father would not have been able to truly snatch away the Lei Long, refined by Vice Principal Zhuge, and the mighty Huang Pil, refined by Elder Zhou. Pausing for a moment, the head elder continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. The only thing that we did not expect was the Huangji pill. Originally, we thought that your father would use it himself, or give it to your mother to use. We did not expect that your father would actually give the Huangji pill to the Du household. However, no matter what, we do not intend to pursue the matter of your father, Du Tingxian. All these years, his name has been on the bounty board, and we also feel that we need to account for the Academy's rules. Du Xiaofu did not say anything when he heard that it was about his drunkard's father. However, he understood that with the strength of these inner Academy elders, no matter how powerful his drunkard's father was back then, he would not have been able to leave the Academy. Without a doubt, his drunkard's father owed the Academy a great deal. The reason why your father sent you to Tianwu Academy is probably to express his gratitude to us old fellows. That lad sure is considerate. He failed to fulfill his promise to me, so he sent his son here to repay his father's debt. Grand Elder Qing Yu sighed softly. His deep eyes stared at Du Xiaofu as though he was recalling something. After which, he said to Du Xiaofu, "Fine. It's only right for the son to repay his father's debt. Lad, your father failed to fulfill his promise to me back then. Can you do it?" As the Grand Elder of Qingyu Island finished speaking, he looked at Du Xiaofu with eyes that were as deep as the stars. There was a faint anticipation in his eyes, as if he was an old man at the end of his life who knew that his time was up and was giving instructions to his descendants. Looking into Grand Elder Qing Yu's eyes, thinking about his drunkard's father and the Academy, Du Xiaofu did not hesitate. He nodded to the Grand Elder and smiled bitterly. It's only right for the son to repay his father's debt. I await Grand Elder's instructions. Good, good, good. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, Grand Elder Qing Yu exclaimed 3 times in a row. His deep eyes landed on Du Xiaofu as he said, "Your words are enough. In the future, remember what you said to me today. From today onwards, you have to promise me that as long as you exist, Tianwu Academy will continue to exist. No matter how it exists, Tianwu Academy must continue to exist. We cannot allow its legacy to be severed." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu raised his head and trembled slightly. He did not expect such a heavy responsibility. His clear eyes stared at Grand Elder Qing Yu worriedly as he said, "Grand Elder, this student's cultivation is still insufficient. This responsibility is a little too heavy." It wasn't that Du Xiaofu was afraid of responsibility, but this responsibility was a little too heavy. Thinking about the calamity that the Academy was facing, as well as the words of Grand Elder Qing Yu, Du Xiaofu could guess some things. How could he withstand the responsibility of the entire Academy? Lad, have you forgotten your promise to me? No matter what, you have to promise me that as long as you exist, Tianwu Academy will continue to exist. No matter how it exists, Tianwu Academy must continue to exist. No matter how it exists, Tianwu Academy must continue to exist. Grand Elder Qing Yu's deep eyes stared at Du Xiaofu as he said, "This is what your father, Du Tingxian, promised me back then. Are you going to reject me after your father failed to fulfill his promise and became a deserter? This student will remember that as long as I exist, Tianwu Academy's legacy will continue to exist. I will forever be a student of Tianwu Academy." Looking at Grand Elder Qing Yu's gaze, Du Xiaofu could only grit his teeth and nod his head. His eyes were filled with determination. "This old man believes in you." Grand Elder Qing Yu nodded. Her shriveled body trembled slightly with her gaze. After which, her gaze swept across the many elders around her. Finally, her withered body trembled as she staggered to her feet. Her shriveled body looked as though it would collapse at any moment. Upon seeing Grand Elder Qing Yu stand up, the first elder, Vice School Head Zhuge Qiangbang, and the others also stood up. Their brows were tightly knitted together, and their expressions were grave. The atmosphere seemed to have frozen the surrounding space. There are some things that I should say. If we all leave, someone has to know about the past of Tianwu Academy. We can't let it end with us. Grand Elder Qing Yu looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, "Lad, do you know about the history of our Tianwu Academy?" This student knows. Countless experts walked out of Tianwu Academy and were conferred the title of Marquis. Their light illuminated the world. Du Xiaofu nodded his head. That's right. Upon hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Grand Elder Qing Yu's eyes trembled. He then looked at Du Xiaofu, and a smile appeared on his withered face. You're right. Countless experts walked out of Tianwu Academy and were conferred the title of Marquis. Their light illuminated the world. However, to our Tianwu Academy, there was an even more glorious past in the distant past. The experts that walked out of Tianwu Academy back then weren't just conferred the title of Marquis. Their names were enough to shake the world, and their talent was unparalleled in the continent. Back then, our Tianwu Academy dominated the central region and experts were as common as the clouds. Upon hearing Grand Elder Qing Yu's words, the gazes of all the inner elders trembled. How powerful was Tianwu Academy back then? However, they had only heard of the legends of Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes in astonishment. He didn't expect Tianwu Academy to have such a glorious past. However, he didn't know why Tianwu Academy would remain in the dark forest. Even though Tianwu Academy continued to produce experts who were conferred the title of Marquis, it was obvious that it was a far cry from the Tianwu Academy that dominated the central region. It's a pity that our Tianwu Academy suddenly declined. After so many years, no one knows the reason behind our decline. However, through generations of inheritance, some of our seniors knew that a calamity would befall Tianwu Academy. Furthermore, it was a calamity that we couldn't escape from. Was this the reason for the calamity? The moment Grand Elder Qing Yu finished speaking, he took out a Qingkuan bag and tossed it to Du Xiaofu. Chapter 5:17. Du Xiaofu involuntarily grabbed the Qingkuan bag in his hand. It looked like an ordinary Qingkuan bag. Other than the fact that it exuded an ancient aura, there was nothing special about it. He asked, Grand Elder, what is this? I don't know what's inside either. The ancestors of the Academy have said that if the Tianwu Academy were to face a calamity one day, it would definitely be because of the item in the Qingkuan bag. The item in the Qingkuan bag is related to the entire central region, as well as the rise of our Tianwu Academy. However, the ancestors of the Academy have placed a seal on the Qingkuan bag. Only a fated person can open it. Grand Elder Qing Yu explained to Du Xiaofu. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu used his mental energy to probe the Qingkuan bag. However, he realized that his mental energy was like a rock sinking into the ocean. Grand Elder Qing Yu seemed to have sensed that Du Xiaofu's mental energy was probing the Qingkuan bag. He smiled and said, There's no need to probe it. All of us have already tried, including the ancestors of the Academy. In order to open the Qingkuan bag, other than a fated person, it's said that there are some special conditions that must be fulfilled. Otherwise, it's impossible to open it. What a mysterious item. Du Xiaofu retracted his mental energy and slowly exhaled. He planned to return the Qingkuan bag to Grand Elder Qing Yu. Keep this Qingkuan bag well. Don't let it fall into the hands of others. Remember what you said? No matter what, the legacy of Tianwu Academy cannot be broken. It must be passed on. Grand Elder Qing Yu looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Later on, there will be elders who will arrange for your departure in the teleportation glyph array. Because the teleportation glyph array can teleport a large number of people each time, and the exits are scattered all over the place, the ancestors of the Academy could only set up the teleportation glyph array in various parts of the dark forest. The distance can't be further. I'm afraid that the invaders will also take this into account. Since those people have come to invade, they won't let it go so easily. They will most likely eliminate the source of trouble. Therefore, after you leave, you must be careful. Grand Elder, who is it that dares to invade Tianwu Academy? Could it be that even the Grand Elder and the inner elders are unable to contend against them? Du Xiaofu asked. It doesn't matter who they are. Regardless of who they are, their target is the item in your hands. You must keep it well. That is the hope for the rise of our Tianwu Academy, the first elder said to Du Xiaofu. As the first elder's voice fell, a figure landed outside the door and walked straight in. The figure of the newcomer was also very old, at least 80 or 90 years old. His appearance was not much different from that of the Grand Elder of Green Island. His face was difficult to describe. His old face looked as though it had gone through 4 seasons: wind, frost, rain, and dew. His hair was messy, but his hair was extremely black, and his eyes were as vast as the sea. "Greetings, Elder Zhou." Upon seeing this old man, Du Xiaofu immediately bowed. Du Xiaofu naturally recognized this old man. He was Elder Zhou of the Talisman Institute. However, to the elders, they all addressed him as Elder Zhou. Back then, he had to thank Elder Zhou for the benefits of the green bamboo spirit fruit. The Huangji pill that his drunkard father took away was also refined by Elder Zhou. Elder Zhou glanced at Du Xiaofu and nodded slightly. After that, his gaze immediately shifted to the Grand Elder of Green Island. With a complicated expression on his face, he asked, "Have you explained everything to this lad?" The Grand Elder of Green Island nodded and said to Elder Zhou, "Yes, I have. How is the situation with the teleportation array formation?" "A little problem has occurred. The consumption of resources is much higher than expected. We've already teleported half of them, but the remaining resources are only enough for the last round. At most, we can only teleport about 100 people." After Elder Zhou finished speaking, he let out a deep breath from his throat. Hearing this, the gazes of all the Inner Institute elders turned extremely grave. The situation was grim. Then, all of their gazes landed on the Grand Elder of Green Island, waiting for his decision. "You make the decision," Grand Elder of Green Island said to Vice Elder Zhuge Qiangbang. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang's gaze flickered. He then looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Du Xiaofu, let's go." After saying that, he walked out of the door. Du Xiaofu glanced at the Inner Institute elders before following behind Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang. Seeing Du Xiaofu's departing figure, Elder Zhou's gaze flickered. He then said to the Grand Elder of Green Island, "Have you made your decision?" "He is the son of that brat Du Tingxian. The student has surpassed the master. If our Tianwu Academy has any hope of rising again, I believe that he will be able to do it," Grand Elder Green Island said to Elder Zhou. "After so long, no one has been able to surpass him. Back then, I thought that his father could do it, but now, he seems to be more suitable than his father. Moreover, didn't you choose him long ago?" Elder Zhou didn't say anything. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "I hope that they will be able to leave behind a legacy for the Academy and avoid this calamity." Grand Elder Green Island looked at everyone and said, "Since it has been arranged, it's time for us to exercise our muscles. All these years, the people outside have really thought that our Tianwu Academy is easy to bully." Grand Elder Green Island paused for a moment and a flicker of light surged out from his deep eyes. His withered body, which seemed to be on the verge of death, was like a suppressed volcano. Surging energy gushed out from him as he said, "Even if our Tianwu Academy isn't as great as it used to be, it isn't something that anyone can touch. No matter who it is, if they want to touch our Tianwu Academy, they will have to pay the price in blood." It was already noon and Du Xiaofu followed Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang all the way back to the plaza of the Tianwu Talisman Zone. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang didn't say anything along the way and had a grave expression on his face. As such, Du Xiaofu didn't say anything and quietly followed behind him. On the plaza, after the teleportation array, there were over 10,000 freshmen, seniors, and write-in students. Only half of them were left. However, there were still about 7,000 to 8,000 people left. It was still a huge number, and all of them were standing on the plaza. Discussions could be heard from the crowd from time to time. Some were terrified, some were grave, and some were quiet. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang landed and looked at the remaining students on the plaza. His gaze swept across them one by one. In the end, he clenched his teeth and said, "All students on the martial ranking, step forward." Hearing this, Bu Dian Shanhe General, Ling Xian, Jade Maiden, Gu Xinyan, Nine Nether Jr., Ghost Child, Black Eagle, Tang Wu, Demon Slayer, Liu Xiao, and the others all stepped forward. Du Xiaofu had originally landed beside Vice Principal Zhuge. Hearing Vice Principal Zhuge's words, he also walked to the center of the crowd. He was also on the martial ranking. There were originally 100 people on the martial ranking, but people like Li Shui and Ouyang Shuang were not in the academy. There were also quite a few people like Li Shui and Ouyang Shuang who were on the martial ranking who weren't in the academy either. Just like the general, Ghost Child, and the others, they had all just returned to the academy. When the martial ranking disciple stepped forward, Du Xiaofu's eyes shone. Of the 100 students on the martial ranking, there were only about 60 people present. In the crowd, Du Xiaofu specially looked around and discovered that she wasn't there either. She should have returned home to visit her family after the Tianwu Talisman Zone went into seclusion. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong glanced at the crowd and then at the plaza again. He said, "Students of the Talisman Institute, step forward as well." Hearing this, the students of the Talisman Institute also stepped forward. Han Xiao, Tu Tong, Bing Na, and the others were among them. However, there were only about 40 people in total. "Little girl and you guys, come forward as well." Zhuge Qiangbong looked at Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Xiaohu and said, "Brother." Hearing this, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger went to Du Xiaofu's side. "You must remember that you are all students of Tianwu Academy and the pride of Tianwu Academy." Vice Principal Zhuge looked at the 100 people from the Martial Ranking and Talisman Institute and squeezed out a smile. He said, "Enter the teleportation array first." "Vice Principal Zhuge, what about the rest of you?" Du Xiaofu raised his head and asked. When he was in the pagoda, he had more or less heard about the general situation. It seemed like the teleportation array could only teleport the last round. If that was the case, there were still many students, teachers, elders, and inner institute elders who couldn't leave the academy. "We will make our own arrangements. You should leave first. Remember what you promised the Supreme Elder of Green Island. Quickly enter the teleportation charm array. There is not much time left. Don't waste any more time," Vice Headmaster Zhuge said to Du Xiaofu. Walala, the space teleportation glyph array was activated. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Amidst the sun-like light, there were dazzling glyph inscriptions surging. Space was directly distorted. In the end, the glyph inscriptions formed a space gate in front of them. Outside the spatial door, the surrounding space fluctuated like a tide. Spatial waves rippled in all directions. "Quickly enter the teleportation array. Quickly," Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong said to Du Xiaofu and the others. Everyone looked at each other. General, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Guo Xiaofeng, and the others all looked at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to nod his head when he saw everyone's gazes. After which, he walked into the teleportation array. Chapter 5:18. Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, General, Gu Xinyan, Liu Xiao, and the others followed Du Xiaofu into the teleportation talisman array. Whoosh, space rippled. Then, the teleportation talisman array rippled violently. Du Xiaofu, who was inside the teleportation talisman array, felt the entire space tremble. Within the dazzling light, there were faint distortions in space. Inside the teleportation talisman array, the talisman inscriptions in the dazzling light flashed and turned into dazzling divine chains of order. It seemed to be reversing space and time, causing the space to become more and more distorted. The entire space was chaotic, causing the profound energy in people's bodies to become chaotic and their souls to tremble. Whoosh! Inside the teleportation talisman array, the multicolored light talisman inscriptions blazed. In the end, it turned into a whirlpool, producing dense light and fog. The whirlpool was hazy, mysterious, and deep. Everyone could not help but tremble along with their bodies. They could clearly feel that their bodies had instantly left their original positions and lost the gravity of space. Their bodies were as light as a feather, as if they were about to float. The whirlpool around them reversed as if they had returned to chaos. The densely packed mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. Around it were layers upon layers of messy, majestic, and strange valleys. Huge peaks protruded from the surrounding cliffs, and dozens of small peaks clustered around the valleys. The mountains were as dark as iron. Fog rose, and the exposed cliffs and steep rocks were dyed red by the sun. However, inside the valleys, it was verdant and lush. Towering trees had tall treetops that were like umbrellas, clouds, and cotton. They covered the sky and covered the earth. The surrounding forest was boundless. Whoosh! Suddenly, inside the valleys, there was a slight tremor. Then, a large amount of dazzling light appeared. The talisman inscription surged. Under the scorching sun, it was still dazzling and gorgeous as it gradually soared into the sky. On top of a mountain peak that was as tall as the clouds, hundreds of figures stood together. They all wore strange masks and cloaks, so their faces could not be seen clearly. These hundreds of people had restrained their auras, but the invisible aura that spread out was extremely bloody, cold, and terrifying. However, in this kind of strange atmosphere, there were no birds in the surrounding mountain range, and the beasts on the ground were all hibernating. Only a few dozen flying beasts were crawling on top of a huge rock. There were several figures standing on the mountain peak. All of them were wearing masks, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Their eyes were looking all around as if they were searching for something. Suddenly, the eyes of the figure in the middle suddenly looked to the left in front of him. There seemed to be a dazzling light fluctuating within a valley surrounded by mountains in the distance. What a coincidence! They must be from Tianwu Academy. The masked face of the figure in the middle revealed a pair of eyes that were filled with coldness. He sneered, "Let's go. Leave no one alive. Kill without mercy." Woo-woo! On the mountain peak, the auras of the hundreds of people suddenly fluctuated. The bloody and cold aura no longer deliberately concealed and erupted. Boom! Instantly, hundreds of auras shot into the sky. Even the weakest among them was at the initial stage of the pulse spirit realm, causing the entire space to tremble. All of them let out low, strange whistles. Woo-woo! The dozens of flying beasts crawling on top of the huge rock also raised their heads and screeched. They spread their wings and hovered at a low altitude. They were all ferocious demonic vultures. One figure after another leaped onto the demonic vultures. The demonic vultures spread their wings and swept across the sky. In the quiet valley, the ground trembled, following which, a dazzling light erupted. The inconspicuous huge rocks in the valley suddenly erupted with dazzling talisman runes, following which, rays of light linked together, forming a vortex of energy in the middle of the valley. The vortex rotated in reverse, emitting a terrifying aura, following which, hundreds of figures appeared within the dazzling light. The dazzling light in the surroundings suddenly disappeared. The auras dissipated and disappeared in an instant. The hundreds of figures staggered. They were Du Xiaofu, the general, Du Xiaoqing, and Gu Xinyan. They were the students of Tianwu Academy. Where is this? After many students appeared, they looked around and observed the surroundings. We should still be in the dark forest. However, we should be at the edge of the exit of the dark forest, Ghost Child said after looking around. Big brother, there are many people coming. They are emitting killing intent. Du Xiaoqing looked at the sky and sensed that there were many people approaching. Upon hearing her words, Du Xiaofu immediately looked at the sky. In the space before them, a large group of demonic beasts appeared. After a few flaps, they covered the sky and covered the sky. Waves of energy surged into the sky, causing the dense forest to undulate. The beasts in the surrounding mountains howled and went into hibernation, not daring to move. Could these be the people who want to deal with Tianwu Academy? Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. These people had arrived the moment they appeared. It was obvious that they had been waiting here for a long time. There's killing intent. Everyone, be careful. General Buddy and Shanhe, Nine Nether Jr., Ghost Child, Demon Halberdly Yuxiao, Black Eagle, Tang Wu, and the others stared intently at the sky as their auras rippled. The vast aura before them was accompanied by a bloodthirsty aura. Anyone could sense the sharp killing intent coming from it. They didn't come with good intentions. Most of these 100 people were experts on the martial ranking. They had undergone tempering in the dark forest and were extraordinary individuals. Boom! As soon as General Buddy and Shanhe, 9 Nether Jr., Ghost Child, and the others spoke. The Tianwu Academy students immediately split into groups of 3 to 5 and 7 to 8 to form a defensive formation. All of them whipped out their spirit artifacts, and their auras surged, causing the space in the valley to tremble. Walala! Dozens of massive demonic vultures flapped their wings and circled around the valley. Waves of energy surged into the sky, causing the clothes of the Tianwu Academy students to flutter loudly. So. Several hundred figures flew down. Some of them floated in midair, forming an iron cage around the valley. All of them wore cloaks and masks that seemed to be engraved with ferocious images. Waves of bloodthirsty auras burst out, causing everyone's hair to stand on end and their hearts to turn cold. Some of the weaker students from the Talisman Institution felt their profound energy stagnate and their faces turn pale. It's them. They are from the Dark Nether sect. When the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, and the others saw the oddly dressed people, their expressions turned grave. Back when they were fighting for the profound spirit heavenspan vine in the Dark City and Dark Forest, General Buddy and Shanha and the others had seen these oddly dressed people with chilling auras. It was said that they came from a place called the Dark Nether sect. It's the Dark Nether sect again. Du Xiaofu looked at the several hundred figures in the surroundings. He couldn't be more familiar with their attire and aura. They were exactly the same as the people from the Dark Nether sect. Kill. Leave no one alive. Kill them all. Several experts with exceptionally powerful auras descended from the sky and hovered in the air. Their eyes were cold as they looked at the Tianwu Academy students. They didn't even bother to speak and chose to kill. Kill them all. The several hundred masked men in the surroundings shouted in unison. Several hundred waves of bloodthirsty auras spread out, causing the air to tremble. Swoosh! One of the Dark Nether sect's disciples was the first to make a move. His cultivation base was at the early stage of the martial marquee stage. A wave of sharp and cold runic aura shot out, and a strong gust of wind swept out toward the Tianwu Academy students in the valley. You're courting death. Ghost Child made his move. After the incident with the profound spirit heavenspan vine, he bore a grudge against the Dark Nether sect. As soon as he finished speaking, his body was shrouded in faint black, profound energy that was accompanied by a wave of murderous aura. It looked like a strange liquid as it shrouded his body. A dark color covered his eyes as he waved his hand. Black, profound energy and runes flashed and carried a murderous aura as they formed into a claw that tore at the sky. Swoosh! Dazzling energy runes bloomed. Ghost Child's claw tore through the energy and nearly tore the early stage martial marquee stage Dark Nether sect's disciple into pieces. Boom! However, at the same time, the densely packed Dark Nether sect's disciples had already surrounded them. There were several hundred Dark Nether sect's disciples, and the weakest among them was at the Meridian Spirit Realm. Such a lineup was much stronger than the entire Tianwu Academy's martial ranking. A battle was on the verge of breaking out. Tangwu, Yifeiyu, both of you protect Master Gu Xinyan and set up the talisman formation. The general ordered. His voice spread out as he instantly came up with a countermeasure. Mountain River Seal. As soon as the general finished speaking, an aura that could suppress mountains and rivers erupted from his body. A palm print shot out along with a dazzling light, causing the air to rumble. Boom! The palm print shot forward, and a vast amount of runic energy swept out from the general's body. It was like a torrential flood that swept out in all directions. The few Dark Nether sect's disciples who were at the front were instantly swept away. Their defenses were destroyed, and their bodies were blasted into pieces. Kill. Li Yuxiao, Gua Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, and the others were no strangers to the Dark Nether sect's disciples. All of them made their moves at the same time. Their attacks were launched, and their energy exploded. Dazzling runes spread out in the air. Bang, bang, bang. Under such an attack, the impact of the energy seemed as though it was going to shatter the valley. It was terrifying. When Li Yuxiao, Gua Xiaofeng, and the others made their moves, they immediately suppressed and severely injured many of the Dark Nether sect's disciples. Kill. At this moment, the other students from the other academies activated their celestial energies and charged in all directions. At this moment, they had no choice but to fight. These dark nether sect's disciples were here specifically to deal with them. The third night watch has arrived. Watch. Chapter 5:19. Damn it. Let us deal with these few. Everyone, deal with the others. Kill without mercy. A gloomy shout rang out. At the same time, more than 20 vigorous chilling auras surged out. More than 20 martial marquee realm cultivators unleashed their terrifying auras. Their figures shot out like afterimages. Instantly, they surrounded General Gue Wei, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, and the others. These dark nether sects experts could tell that General, Ghost Child, and the others were not ordinary. Therefore, they were prepared to kill General Bu Dian and the others. Waves of terrifying chilling auras spread out and covered the sky. The auras of the dark nether sects experts were much stronger than that of the entire Tianwu Academy. TSK. Looks like we're quite lucky to have encountered a group of Tianwu Academy's most elite students. They should be the so-called martial role students. High up in the sky, a figure with a mask on his face revealed a pair of cold eyes. The aura on his body was the most vigorous and fierce. He was the leader of this group of dark nether sects experts. His gaze then landed on Gu Xinyan, who was in the middle of the crowd gathering formation flags. With a chilling aura, he sneered, "You want to set up a talisman formation? Don't waste your time." The moment his words left his mouth, the leader of Dark Nether sect with a mask on his face made his move. A vast and mighty chilling energy spread out from his hand. It seemed to have distorted the entire space as it instantly pressed down on Gu Xinyan. When this vast energy pressed down, it was not something that Gu Xinyan and the others could withstand. Initial Martial King Realm Cultivation Base. In the crowd, Du Xiaofu looked at the leader who made his move in the sky. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. His face was already gloomy as he ordered coldly, "Little Qing, kill him." "Yes, brother." A clear and ethereal voice suddenly rang out. A graceful green figure had already strangely appeared in the sky above with lightning speed. The graceful green figure seemed to have affected time and space as she instantly appeared in the sky above Gu Xinyan. She directly blocked the attack of the Dark Nether sect's initial Martial King Realm Cultivator. Die. Du Xiaoqing's ethereal voice was accompanied by killing intent. She stretched out her fair and slender hand, and a green glow erupted. Instantly, a circle of faintly discernible marks appeared in the air. Then, a fist imprint directly collided with the cold energy of the Dark Nether sect's Martial King expert. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. When Du Xiaoqing made her move, the leader of the Dark Nether sect who had just broken through to the Martial King stage seemed to have sensed something. Horror dawned on his face immediately. In the next instant, his energy was instantly destroyed. Boom! Then, Du Xiaoqing's seemingly delicate punch, accompanied by a terrifying force, suddenly landed on his body under many shocked gazes. Bang, bang, bang. The terrifying force poured out. At this moment, a muffled sound rang out from the body of the Dark Nether sect's initial Martial King Realm Cultivator. His eyes were filled with horror. Then, his body was sent flying like an impact cannon. However, his body had already exploded in midair and turned into a bloody mist. A Martial King Realm Cultivator who had just broken through to the Martial King Realm was instantly destroyed by Du Xiaoqing with just one move. Goo goo. When this scene appeared, many of the Dark Nether sect's disciples who were wearing masks looked at each other and gasped. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared at the beautiful green-robed figure in front of them. It was as though they had seen a ghost. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, Gu Xinyan formed her last hand seal. Waves of heaven and earth energy instantly fluctuated rapidly in the air. Her delicate figure stepped out. Her figure under her red robe was graceful and beautiful. 17 formation flags were formed in her delicate hands. All of them were emitting a terrifying fluctuation, spirit-suppressing heavenly phoenix formation. Without any delay, Gu Xinyan started to form the formation. The 17 formation flags surrounded the area in front of her at lightning speed. Then, they turned into dazzling light pillars and disappeared. Rumble. In an instant, a powerful formation appeared in mid-air. Endless energy from the formation lights distorted the space. In the end, it faintly transformed into a gigantic heavenly phoenix's silhouette that was several thousand feet tall. Goo! The heavenly phoenix's silhouette was like a living creature. Its entire body emitted an ancient aura. An earth-shattering cry resounded in the air. Its aura suppressed the sky. Its power was enough to send chills down people's spines. The terrifying formation hovered in mid-air. The heavenly phoenix's silhouette was like a living creature. It caused people's hearts to tremble. Then, it enveloped hundreds of dark nether sect's disciples. Swoosh! The heavenly phoenix flapped its wings. Its claws were like hooks. Terrifying energy swept out and distorted the space. It spread out like lightning bolts and struck the hundreds of dark nether sect's disciples. Bang, bang, bang. Muffled sounds rang out continuously. One by one, the dark nether sect's disciples were killed in the spirit-suppressing heavenly phoenix formation. Kill. A cold and indifferent killing intent spread out. The greenish-gold light in Du Xiaofu's hand shone brightly. The greenish-gold tyrant shadow appeared in his hand. The greenish-gold light shone brightly. Runes swirled around it. It looked like it was formed by nature. A domineering and sharp aura filled the air. Du Xiaofu made his move at lightning speed. Layers of light shone on the tyrant shadow. In just a blink of an eye, the sword transformed into a greenish-gold sword whip that was separated from the sword. Layers of greenish-gold talisman inscriptions bloomed. Swish! The greenish-gold sword whip transformed like a spirit python, a WYRM dragon, and a great rock. It shot toward the dark nether sect's disciples from an unbelievable angle. Swish, swish, swish. The greenish-gold sword whip shot out swiftly. It was agile and demonic. The terrifying and agile sword whip pierced through the chests of the dark nether sect's disciples. They could not resist at all. Wherever it passed, the dark nether sect's disciples could not resist at all. Golden light erupted from their bodies at lightning speed. Then, their figures exploded in midair. Bam, bam, bam. The speed was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. The dark nether sect's martial marquises were annihilated like ants under the sword whip that resembled a great rock flapping its wings and a WYRM coiling around it. Even the martial marquises could not withstand a single blow. Roar! The little tiger soared into the sky and transformed into a gigantic black tiger before it flapped its wings. The dozens of flying demon vultures from the dark nether sect could not withstand the pressure and fell from the sky. They were torn apart by the little tiger's claws. Roar! The little tiger roared. Its ferocious mouth opened and swallowed the dark nether sect's disciples one by one. Roar! Du Xiaoyao's golden macaque body transformed into a red-bone horse ape. A terrifying aura erupted from it. It was as though a terrifying lord had been born. The talisman inscriptions around her body surged, causing the surrounding space to ripple violently. Du Xiaoyao threw out punch after punch. It was as though the world had just been created. It swept out in all directions and suppressed everything. The souls of the dark nether sect's disciples exploded, and their bodies were reduced to pieces. Kill. Du Xiaoqing continued to attack. Wherever her beautiful figure passed, the dark nether sect's disciples would be reduced to blood mist. It was impossible for them to put up any resistance. As Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaofu, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao attacked, the dark nether sect's disciples became nightmares wherever they went. Amidst countless wails and cries of agony, the dark nether sect's disciples were killed without a complete corpse. Even their souls were destroyed. All the Tianwu Academy students were shocked when they saw Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaofu, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao kill. However, in just a short period of time, all the Tianwu Academy students were pleasantly surprised. One by one, they attacked with all their might and killed the dark nether sect's disciples. Among the hundreds of dark nether sect's disciples, the martial king leader was killed by Du Xiaoqing in a single move. More than 20 martial marquises were killed by Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoqing. The remaining Meridian Spirit Realm cultivators were no longer a threat to the Tianwu Academy students. Moreover, there were also extraordinary individuals like the General, Ghost Child, Wu Ke, Gu Xinyan, Gua Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, Tang Wu, and Yi Feiyu among them. The hundreds of Dark Nether Sect's disciples could only wait to be killed. With Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger around, it was impossible for them to escape. In just a short period of time, the hundreds of Dark Nether Sect's disciples were all killed. Perhaps, these Dark Nether Sect's disciples would never have imagined that the Tianwu Academy's disciples that they would kill would be their final nail in the coffin. This batch of Tianwu Academy's disciples was definitely not something they could kill. The valley was drenched in blood, and corpses were scattered everywhere. One by one, the Tianwu Academy's disciples landed in the valley. Their clothes were stained with blood. Only a few of them had minor injuries, but their injuries were not serious. Du Xiaofu's figure landed in the valley. The azure gold long whip in his hand was bewitching. In the end, it spun around and transformed into a natural, simple, and elegant azure gold long sword. His eyes shone with a terrifying golden light. What's going on? Why are the Dark Nether Sect's disciples here to kill us? Is the calamity the Academy is facing related to the Dark Nether Sect? The general, Gu Xinyan, Ghostchild, Wu Ke, Gua Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, and the others immediately gathered around Du Xiaofu. Only Du Xiaofu had returned with Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang, so he might know more than them. Du Xiaofu looked at the blood-soaked valley before he looked at the students around him with a solemn expression. In the end, he said to General Bushan He, Ling Xin, Gu Xinyan, Ghostchild, Netherworld Princess, Wu Ke, Heaven Luo Sword, Gua Xiaofeng, Black Hawk, Tang Wu, Demon Extermination Sword, Li Yuxiao, and the others, I don't know if the Dark Nether Sect is behind the great calamity of the Academy. However, the moment we appeared here, the Dark Nether Sect tried to kill us. I'm afraid the junior brothers and sisters who were sent away by the teleportation talisman array are probably dead as well. Since we managed to escape this calamity, this might be the last legacy of the Academy. All of you should leave quickly and leave behind the last legacy of the Academy. The general looked at Du Xiaofu and asked seriously, "What about you? Today will be the day I explode. I'll make up for what Xiao Yu owes and apologize to my fellow readers once again. There are only 2 days left at the end of the month. Although it's a little shameless, Xiao Yu will shamelessly ask for fresh flowers. I'll continue to write. Today, I'll explode to repay my debt." Chapter 520. I want to make a trip back to the Academy. Du Xiaofu recalled Tyrant Shadow back into his body. When he thought about Grand Elder Lu Yu's words, he decided to return to the Academy. Since the Dark Nether Sect was able to kill the students of the Academy, they would not let Tianwu Academy off either. Even if the calamity was not something he could handle, he would never be able to forgive himself if he left just like that. You want to go back? Wu Ke was puzzled when she heard Ai Hui's words. She asked, the juniors and the elders of the Academy should be able to leave through the space teleportation array. Why do you still want to go back? Du Xiaofu sighed when he heard Wu Ke's words. He said softly, I'm afraid they won't be able to leave. What exactly happened? How much do you know? Gu Xinyan asked Du Xiaofu with a grave expression in her beautiful eyes. Du Xiaofu looked at the crowd and scanned the surroundings. He hesitated for a moment before replying. The space teleportation array consumes a lot of resources. The Academy has used up all of its resources. The last space teleportation array can only support us to leave. The rest of the people will not be able to leave through the space teleportation array. We were attacked by the Dark Nether Sect here. I'm afraid there will be more people outside the Academy. It's impossible for the rest of the Academy to leave. When all the students heard Ai Hui's words, their faces turned grave. They did not know about this earlier. It was no wonder that the last space teleportation array only teleported 100 or so people. It turned out that the Academy's resources that could support the space teleportation array had been used up. I don't know if the Dark Nether Sect is just one or all of them. However, they must be here to deal with Tianwu Academy. This should be the calamity that the Academy elders mentioned. Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity now. I want to return to the Academy. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he looked at Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao and said, Little Blue, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao, are you willing to accompany me back to the Academy? Wherever Third Young Master is, I will be there. The little tiger's body grew to a size of about 10 feet. It stood beside Du Xiaofu and glared at him fiercely. Of course I will accompany my brother, Du Xiaoqing said. Can you leave me out? Du Xiaoyao said shamelessly. Her body returned to the size of a little golden macaque, and her spirit eyes turned. Du Xiaofu, do you think you're the only one in the academy who isn't afraid of death? Do you think I'm afraid of death? If you want to go back, count me in. The general's eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. His gaze was resolute, and his body was covered with a faint bronze color. When one looked at him, there was an invisible aura that seemed to dominate the sky and suppress the mountains and rivers. Me too. If you want to touch Tianwu Academy, you'll have to go through me first. Ghost Child stepped forward. His black robes were as black as ink, and his handsome face exuded a sharp aura. No. Du Xiaofu looked at the general and Ghost Child and said sternly, the academy must leave behind its legacy. You can't go back. If I'm not wrong, Vice Principal Zhuge must have asked you to leave behind the legacy for the academy. Even if we have to return to the academy, it should be us. You're the one who has to leave behind the legacy for the academy. You're the only one who can truly leave behind the legacy for the academy. Gu Xinyan stepped forward, her beautiful eyes rippling. Xinyan is right. We're the ones who have to return. You're the one who has to stay behind and leave behind the legacy for the academy. Netherworld Princess Wu Kei stepped forward, looked at Du Xiaofu, and asked, therefore, we have to return together. We're all part of the academy. If the academy is gone, what's the point of talking about the legacy? The academy is sending us away with all its might, but can we really leave? Even if we're no match for them, at least we'll return. We're not cowards who are afraid of death. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. How can we leave just like that? If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Li Yuxiao's indifferent words came out from his mouth. He slightly raised his head, revealing his smooth and fair face. His deep, jet-black eyes were suffused with a red glow, causing one's heart to tremble when they looked at him. Tianwu Academy doesn't have cowards who are afraid of death. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. If we don't return, we won't be able to rest in peace. Guo Xiaofeng, Tang Wu, Yi Feiyu, and the others spoke calmly. Their voices reverberated throughout the valley, and the eyes of the hundreds of students were filled with determination and indignation. The academy was facing a calamity, and Tianwu Academy didn't have cowards who were afraid of death. How could they leave just like that? Most of the students present were seniors of Tianwu Academy. After being in the academy for so many years, they had a sense of belonging to the academy. To them, the academy was half their home, and this was the reason why the academy existed. How could they leave just like that? Do you still wish to return alone? Looking at the crowd, the general asked Du Xiaofu once more. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he looked at the crowd, after which he nodded his head and said, those on the martial ranking can return to the academy together. As for the other seniors of the talisman department, you should leave immediately. Junior brother Xiaofu, we're going back together. Even though our strengths aren't very strong, as a member of the academy and students of the Talisman Institute, how can we be afraid of death? Even if we leave, where can we go? Han Xiao stepped forward and asked Du Xiaofu with determination in his eyes. We students of the Talisman Department want to return as well. Bing Na, Tu Tong, and the others stepped forward as well. Senior Han Xiao, there are no cowards in Tianwu Academy, and there are no cowards in the Talisman Department as well. However, we have to leave behind our inheritance for Tianwu Academy. The students of the Talisman Department aren't cowards. Du Xiaofu said to Han Xiao, Bing Na, and Tu Tong, if I'm not wrong, this place shouldn't be far from the chaotic demon city. Leave to the left and head to the chaotic demon city. Look for the World Society and tell them that you're here on my orders. Tell the World Society to send reinforcements to Tianwu Academy at all costs. Looking at Du Xiaofu's serious gaze, Han Xiao, Bing Na, and Tu Tong were moved and nodded. Han Xiao took the lead and said to the students of the Talisman Department, Students of the Talisman Department, follow me to the chaotic demon city. Swoosh, swoosh. In a short period of time, the students of the talisman department stepped forward and glanced at Du Xiaofu, the general, and the others. Under Han Chao's lead, they dashed into the forest on the left and left. Everyone, let's return to the academy. I'm afraid that we won't be able to use the teleportation array. This place isn't close to the academy. I hope that we can still make it in time. Du Xiaofu's expression turned solemn. From the Chaos Demon City to Tianwu Academy, Little Tiger would need at least a day and a night to travel at full speed. If he were to calculate the time, it should be about the same. He wondered if he could make it in time. It would be great if we could activate the teleportation array. Gu Xinyan sighed with her beautiful eyes. Let's return to the academy at full speed, the general said. Du Xiaoyao's pale golden spirit eyes flickered. After hesitating for a moment, she said to Du Xiaofu, second brother, although you won't be able to activate the teleportation array, it has already been activated. It's just that you won't be able to use it. However, you and I will be able to return. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he didn't have the time to argue with Du Xiaoyao about who was the boss. Du Xiaofu naturally understood the meaning behind Du Xiaoyao's words. With his and Du Xiaoyao's innate talent, they could ignore all ordinary talisman arrays. The teleportation array was also a talisman array. Naturally, Du Xiaofu would be able to ignore it. Is there a way to bring everyone back? Du Xiaofu asked Du Xiaoyao. Du Xiaoyao's eyes flickered. She was in a difficult position. You have a way, right? Du Xiaofu knew Du Xiaoyao very well. It wasn't hard to see that Du Xiaoyao seemed to have a way to bring everyone back. Du Xiaoyao nodded. Her gaze swept past the general, Ghost Child, Gu Xinyan, and dozens of others. She sighed and said to Du Xiaofu, there is a way. However, with my current strength, it's impossible to bring so many people. Unless what? Hurry up and say it. Du Xiaofu glared at Du Xiaoyao. I need to consume a lot of energy, so much that it's beyond your imagination. I need a lot of spiritual medicines, spiritual weapons, and talisman weapons. In short, the more the better. Otherwise, I really can't do it. Du Xiaoyao said seriously. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao. He knew that Du Xiaoyao wasn't lying. Du Xiaoyao really needed a lot of spiritual herbs and spiritual weapons. Is this enough for you? Du Xiaofu took out his Qinkuan bag and poured out most of the spiritual herbs, elixirs, and spiritual weapons. Du Xiaofu still had a small amount of elixirs and spiritual herbs left, but he couldn't take them out. They all had extremely important uses. Whatever he could take out, he took out. They were all very valuable. The spiritual herbs, elixirs, and spiritual weapons piled up in piles. Multicolored light spread out and energy fluctuations made people's hearts tremble. Du Xiaofu even took out the kitchen knife spiritual weapon that he refined before. The surrounding generals, Gu Xinyan, and the others were all dumbfounded. They did not expect Du Xiaofu to have so many treasures on him. Although it's a lot, it's only enough for me to bring half of the people, Du Xiaoyao said. She looked at the elixirs, spiritual herbs, and spiritual weapons that Du Xiaofu took out. She didn't have her usual greedy smile. Instead, her eyes were full of seriousness. I have some. Although it's not a lot, it's all here. Gu Xinyan stepped forward. She had been listening to Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaofu's conversation. Although she didn't know the specific reason, she poured out a lot of elixirs and spiritual herbs from her Qinkuan bag. There were also 2 ordinary spiritual weapons. I have some too, and mine. The general, Ghost Child, Li Yuxiao, Guo Xiaofeng, and Wu Kei stepped forward without any hesitation. They poured out a lot of elixirs, spiritual herbs, and spiritual weapons from their Qinkuan bags. Chapter 521. There's still hours. Upon hearing those words, the crowd, including Black Eagle, Tang Wu, Cloud-Chasing Swallow, Yi Feiyu, and the others, took out their universe pouches and filled them with pills and spirit herbs. Some of them didn't even use spirit artifacts. Spirit herbs, pills, and spirit artifacts piled up together like a haystack. Resplendent light permeated the air and energy rippled through the air. It was an exceptionally dazzling sight. Is it enough now? After everyone had taken out their pills and spirit artifacts, Du Xiaofu turned to Du Xiaoyao and asked, I don't know either. I'll try my best. However, there are too many people. Even if I can do it, I'm afraid that it will take longer than when we use the teleportation formation. Du Xiaoyao replied. Looking at the haystack of spirit herbs, pills, and spirit artifacts, she didn't seem to be happy at all. Dusk. In Tianwu Academy, the sun shone its final rays on the majestic mountains and ancient buildings. The sunset was like a red leaf falling from the sky. Under the setting sun, everything was dyed a dark purple, resembling a reef amidst a sea of clouds. On the vast square outside the Tianwu Talisman Formation, the remaining students stood quietly. Someone asked a question but was told by the teachers and elders to wait patiently. No one was allowed to speak. Under the setting sun, the mountains outside Tianwu Academy were shrouded in a crimson glow. What happened in Tianwu Academy? There seems to be a huge commotion. Could something have happened in Tianwu Academy? Let's wait and see. Perhaps we might be able to reap some benefits. Outside of Tianwu Academy, some of the escort agencies and powers nearby were observing the happenings in Tianwu Academy. They guessed that the huge commotion in Tianwu Academy meant that something big had happened. Perhaps their fortuitous encounter had arrived, and they might be able to obtain some benefits from it. One must know that Tianwu Academy was a sacred ground with countless years of history behind it. Even though its reputation was no longer what it used to be and was gradually declining, any benefits that could be reaped from it were still a huge fortuitous encounter to the outside world. This was sufficient for countless people to covet it. Amidst the mountains, valleys, and forests, thousands of masked figures were looking in the direction of Tianwu Academy. At this moment, they seemed to be waiting for something. Qi. At this moment, above the canyon, the space above suddenly fluctuated. The red sunset clouds fluctuated, and a cold aura descended upon the mountains. Roar. At this moment, as if they had sensed something, countless ferocious birds fell from the mountain range, their bodies trembling. Ferocious beasts crawled and roared, hibernating in their caves, not daring to come out. Dark forest, dark city, outside the Mu family trading company. Beside the simple and crude tea stall, an old woman with a head full of silver hair and sparkling white light seemed to have sensed something. Suddenly, she raised her head slightly. Her face was full of wrinkles, and the lines at the corners of her eyes were like two opened fans. She looked at the sky in front of her. Within Tianwu Academy, the sunset glow rippled in the sky and a chilling aura permeated the air. It silently caused one's soul to tremble and a chill to run down their spines. On the plaza outside the Tianwu Seal, all of the Tianwu Academy students looked at the sky in confusion. At this moment, everyone could sense the killing intent in the chilling aura. Could the calamity that the elders spoke of have something to do with this? Tianwu Academy was surrounded by mountains. At the top of an ancient pagoda in a canyon, the supreme elder of Qingyu sect and the others were gathered at the top of the pagoda. Their expressions were grave as they looked at the chilling aura descending from the sunset glow. They're here. They seemed to be from the Dark Nether sect. Vice Principal Zhuge Changbong frowned. His savage face had a grave expression on it. It seems like they intend to make a move. I didn't expect the Dark Nether sect to be the first to make a move. A grave expression appeared on Elder Zhou's aged face as he muttered, "Could it be that the Dark Nether sect is the first to make a move on our Tianwu Academy?" Sigh. Supreme Elder Qingyu sect sighed. His expression was grave, but he was calm. He knew that this day would come sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. Then, he looked at the people around him and said, "Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity today. Are you all prepared? Tianwu Academy is our roots. Whoever dares to come, we'll fight them to the death." Many of the elders in the inner court had solemn expressions as they shouted in unison. None of them had any intention of taking a step back. Since that's the case, let's fight to the death. I'd like to see how the Dark Nether sect is capable of dealing with our Tianwu Academy. Supreme Elder Qingyu sect shouted. His voice was sonorous. Waves of air began to spread from his seemingly shriveled body. His aura erupted like a volcano. Activate the talisman formation. A moment later, a voice echoed in Tianwu Academy, reverberating in the air. Rumble, following which, countless pillars of light shot into the sky from the surroundings of Tianwu Academy. They intertwined with each other before they gathered together and transformed into a huge talisman formation that enveloped Tianwu Academy. At this instant, the earth quaked and the mountains shook as though there was an earthquake. An ancient aura spread out in all directions as a pressure enveloped the academy. Welcome, Vice Sect Master. In the canyon, the leader of the group was an old man wearing a mask. His eyes were cold as he looked at the sunset clouds in the sky and bowed respectfully. Welcome, Vice Sect Master. In the canyon, the masked man knelt down and bowed respectfully. His voice reverberated in the canyon. Those of Tianwu Academy, listen up. Those who surrender will be spared. Otherwise, we won't spare your life. A sinister voice sounded from the red clouds, and it was as though a cold rainstorm had descended upon the world. When the voice landed in the ears of everyone in Tianwu Academy, it caused their blood to freeze, their profound energy to freeze, and their souls to shiver. Tianwu Academy has never had anyone who fears death. If you're capable, break the formation first. The aged voice resounded out like a thunderclap, and it even diluted the cold aura. Since that's the case, let's break the formation then. The red clouds rippled, and the cold voice continued to reverberate in the surroundings. So, inside the canyon, there were about 10 to 20 figures rushing out like lightning. All of them were Martial King Realm cultivators. The figures at the front didn't seem to be Martial King Realm cultivators, especially the gloomy old man who was in the lead. At this moment, his aura was even more terrifying. Break the formation. As soon as the masked old man's voice sounded, dozens of experts stepped into the air and waved their hands. Inscriptions flashed in their hands, and overwhelming profound energy surged in their hands. Following which, terrifying attacks were launched toward Tianwu Academy. Hong Long Long. As the experts made their moves, their attacks seemed to be able to distort space. Terrifying spatial energy surged forth like a tsunami, crashing toward Tianwu Academy. Wherever the attacks passed by, forests were destroyed, mountains crumbled, the ground cracked, and gales swept across the sky. Walala, under such a vast wave of energy, the terrifying attack appeared on the formation above Tianwu Academy. In an instant, it was blocked by a formless spatial barrier. Ripples of ancient aura rippled from the formless barrier, and one could vaguely see a dragon soaring and a tiger leaping about, giving off a heaven-shaking aura. Continue. The old man in the lead said indifferently. Cold stars flickered in his eyes as he continued to attack the formation. Every time he made a move, a figure would leap through the air and approach Tianwu Academy. Not far behind him, thousands of figures were following closely behind, emitting a chilling aura of blood. Hong Long Long. A terrifying sound reverberated from the talisman array in the sky above Tianwu Academy. Following the attacks of the 20 experts, the ancient aura on the talisman array rippled continuously. Illusory figures that resembled soaring dragons and leaping tigers rippled continuously. The mysterious inscriptions on the talisman array flickered, and a deafening rumble resounded in the sky like a thunderclap, shaking one's soul. Under the continuous attacks of the 20 experts, terrifying gales swept across the sky, causing the surrounding mountains to crumble and the ground to crack. This was especially so for the few experts at the front. Their strength seemed to have surpassed the Martial King realm. Under such ferocious attacks, the formation was on the verge of collapse, and it was unlikely that it would be able to hold on for much longer. Is this the calamity of Tianwu Academy? All the students on the plaza outside the heavenly martial symbol realm were currently staring at the unceasingly trembling symbol array. After hearing the dark and cold words that sounded like thunder from before, they roughly understood what the great calamity that the elders were talking about was. Unknowingly, their fists were tightly clenched. Looks like Tianwu Academy does have some foundation. We really have to use the Crimson Dipper Lightning Bullet that we specially prepared for you. I hope that destroying Tianwu Academy will be worth one Crimson Dipper Lightning Bullet. Amidst the sunset glow, the chilling bellow could be heard clearly amidst the aftershocks of the rumbling sounds, following which, the energy in the surroundings suddenly went berserk. A crimson streak of light descended like a bolt of lightning, piercing through space and landing on the gigantic formation above Tianwu Academy. Wong. As the crimson streak of light landed on the formation, a thunderous explosion sounded. Streaks of energy burst forth like countless lightning bolts under the setting sun. What's going on with Tianwu Academy? At this moment, the entire dark forest was trembling. Countless gazes turned toward the direction of Tianwu Academy. Thunder rumbled in the direction of Tianwu Academy, and it seemed as though countless lightning bolts were wreaking havoc in the sky. It was as though a gigantic lightning star had been born. Hong long long. The crimson streak of lightning exploded, and a destructive energy spread out, wrapping the gigantic formation above Tianwu Academy into a gigantic lightning star. Rumbling lightning bolts shuttled back and forth, and layers of energy waves appeared in the void. Continue to write. The hot-blooded chapter is about to begin. I beg for fresh flowers, recommendations, and support. Chapter 522. Even if a martial king were to come into contact with such a vast and mighty energy wave, they would be instantly turned into ashes and scattered in a puff of smoke. Crack, crack. The lightning wreaked havoc on the Tianwu Academy's talisman array. On the distorted light barrier, the illusory images of the soaring dragon and leaping tiger were gradually destroyed. Under the bombardment of the lightning, the talisman array dimmed and finally, it started to crack. Students of the Academy, a calamity has befallen Tianwu Academy. The teleportation talisman array has been depleted of its resources and can no longer be activated. After the array is destroyed, try to find a way to escape. As long as even one of you is left alive, even if the legacy of our Tianwu Academy doesn't perish, from today onwards, Tianwu Academy will no longer be able to protect you. Take care of yourselves. Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbang's voice resounded, following which, an elderly figure stepped into the air. Behind him, dozens of terrifying auras spread out. We will advance and retreat together with the Academy. There are no cowards in Tianwu Academy who are afraid of death. Even though the students in the plaza felt a chill in their hearts, none of them retreated. Elder He Who roared with laughter. Ha 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 ha. As expected of the students of Tianwu Academy, today, we will fight to the death. Rumble. The talisman array finally shattered. At the same time, a thunderous explosion resounded. Lightning swept across the sky and a terrifying energy wave spread out. Even from afar, one could feel the profound energy in one's body stagnating, causing one's hair to stand on end. Many of the buildings in Tianwu Academy were also flattened. Bang, bang, bang. Within the Tianwu Talisman realm, the two massive peaks at the entrance of the plaza cracked and the words Tianwu Academy collapsed. The massive martial ranking board and bounty board also crumbled under the impact of the lightning. Bang, bang, bang. On the Peace Plaza, the ground trembled. Cracks appeared, and the plaza was reduced to ruins. In the sky, the terrifying energy wave gradually dissipated. As the talisman array shattered, over 1,000 figures wearing strange masks appeared before the eyes of everyone in the Academy. A chilling aura descended from the sky, enveloping the ancient Tianwu Academy. Amidst the ripples of the sunset glow, a chilling figure gradually emerged from the red clouds. It was a skinny old man in his 60s. He was dressed in a gray robe and had a gloomy expression on his face. The chilly aura emanating from his body seemed to cover the sky and the sun. His eyes flickered with coldness as he stared at the people gathered in the plaza outside the Tianwu Talisman realm. He laughed coldly, and his eerie voice carried a bone-chilling intent that caused one's hair to stand on end as it resounded throughout the area. I've already said that if you don't surrender, I'll slaughter everyone in Tianwu Academy. Following the eerie voice, the withered body of Grand Elder Qingyu leaped out. She looked at the thousands of sinister and bloody figures before turning to the eerie old man who seemed to be in his 60s and said indifferently, "Old man Yiming, I didn't expect you to still be alive. However, I'm still alive. Do you think that you can destroy my Tianwu Academy with just you alone? Qingyu, you're already in your twilight years. Today, Tianwu Academy will disappear before your eyes. Of course, you'll disappear as well." The old man who was addressed as Old Man Yiming sneered as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and looked at the Dark Nether sect members behind him as he shouted, "Massacre Tianwu Academy! Leave no one alive! Kill them all!" "Yes, Vice Sect Master." As soon as Old Man Yinming's words left his mouth, the leader of the Dark Nether sect let out a cold cry in unison. Waves of cold, bloody aura gushed out from his body. Soon after, numerous figures, accompanied by a vast and mighty killing intent, swept across the sky and crushed the Tianwu Academy students from every direction. Massacre Tianwu Academy. Leave no one alive. An ear-piercing yell resounded in the air above Tianwu Academy, causing the ancient Tianwu Academy to be filled with killing intent. "Let's fight to the death." Elder He Who shouted loudly. When he saw the Dark Nether sect's disciples charging toward him, he took the lead and flew out. His profound energy surged as he instantly blocked a martial marquee from the Dark Nether sect. Kill. All of the Tianwu Academy's elders quickly made their moves. Waves of profound energy shot out and blocked the Dark Nether sect's disciples. "Let's fight to the death." The Tianwu Academy students shouted in unison as they gripped their weapons tightly. Numerous figures also flew out and charged toward the Dark Nether sect's disciples. Rumble. In an instant, both sides clashed. Talismans flew, and profound energy swept out. The talisman inscriptions on the talismans were dazzling, causing the ancient heaven and earth energy to surge. The murderous aura filled the sky and blotted out the sun. Swish, swish, swish. The leader of the Dark Nether sect was an old man who wore a mask. Two other masked figures charged out at lightning speed. Just as they were about to slaughter the Tianwu Academy's disciples, 3 streaks of light shot out from the sky above Tianwu Academy. They were Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong, Elder Zhou, and the Inner Court's Grand Elder. 2 6-star mysterious talisman masters and a quasi-martial monarch. I didn't expect Tianwu Academy to have such a lineup. I'm a little surprised. However, it's still not enough. The masked old man looked at Zhuge Qiangbong, Elder Zhou, and the Inner Court's Grand Elder with a hint of surprise in his eyes. However, a sinister smile soon appeared on his face as he waved his hand and said to the 2 people beside him, "Leave the 6-star talisman master in the middle to me. Both of you deal with the other 2. Kill." The 2 Dark Nether sect's disciples released their vast and mighty auras as they charged toward the Inner Court's Grand Elder and Elder Zhou. Their cold and sharp auras surged out and swept out. They were ready to kill as soon as they attacked. Kill. The Inner Court's Grand Elder and Elder Zhou shouted coldly. Their eyes were filled with coldness as terrifying energy spread out. They immediately attacked. "It's your turn." The remaining old man sneered. His figure moved like an afterimage as he appeared in front of Zhuge Qiangbong in an instant. He waved his hand like a claw as cold and sharp energy gathered. A claw print tore through the sky and crushed Zhuge Qiangbong. Humph! Vice Dean Zhuge Qiangbong narrowed his eyes slightly. His eyes that seemed lifeless suddenly glowed brightly. A strange fluctuation of runic energy appeared, and his figure instantly broke free from his opponent's restraint. "We swear to fight to the death. We'll fight to the death with the Academy." At the same time, the group of Inner Court elders charged out and clashed with the powerhouses from Dark Nether sect. Bang, bang, bang. The low and deep sounds of energy reverberated in the sky above the ancient academy as vast and mighty energy swept out. You, what are you waiting for? Make your move. You've lived for so long, and it's time for you to die. Old Man Yinming dove down from the sky like a bolt of lightning and instantly collided with Yu's Supreme Elder. "Yinming, as long as Tianwu Academy has a legacy, I'll make you regret it forever." Yu's Supreme Elder shouted as he charged forward and attacked. He instantly collided with Old Man Yinming's body like a meteor. The terrifying runic energy swept out in the sky like a huge storm. Bang! The attacks of Old Man Yinming and Supreme Elder Qing Yu destroyed the distorted space and shattered the surrounding space. Both of them seemed to be on par with each other for a moment. As expected, you're quite capable. However, I'm afraid it's useless today. Tianwu Academy will be annihilated today. Old Man Yinming's chilling aura covered the sky and the sun, enveloping the horizon of the setting sun. Wave after wave of attacks were unleashed. Wherever the attacks passed, the space would be torn apart, faintly forming spatial cracks. Such attacks were truly too terrifying. "You're not strong enough." Yu Supreme Elder shouted angrily. The profound energy in his shriveled body surged out like a torrential flood and continuously blocked Old Man Yiming's attacks. Bang, bang, bang. As the two of them fought, every time their silhouettes flickered and collided, dazzling runic lights and muffled energy would erupt. The violent energy spread out in all directions as though it could move mountains and overturn seas. It caused the surrounding mountains to explode one after another. This kind of battle was truly breathtaking. Kill. Within Tianwu Academy, there were around 8,000 students blocking the people from the Dark Nether sect. The sound of killing filled the air. A bloody and cold aura spread out along with many miserable shrieks. In just a short period of time, the area outside the Tianwu Talisman Zone was drenched in blood. It was a tragic sight. There were many students in Tianwu Academy. However, the people from the Dark Nether sect were all at the Meridian Spirit Realm and above. There were also many Martial Marquee Realm cultivators among them. Therefore, even if the Tianwu Academy students gathered together, it was still difficult for them to fend off the Dark Nether sect. It did not take long before many students were killed. They were unable to fight back against the Dark Nether sect. Elder Sun Biyue, Elder Morong Shi, Elder Liao, and the other elders of Tianwu Academy were fighting with all their might. However, their situation was not optimistic. In fact, they were in grave danger. All students, listen up. Think of a way to escape. Tianwu Academy will only continue to exist if all of you leave. Only then will we be able to take revenge for the seniors who died today. Yu Supreme Elder shouted at Old Man Yiming. His voice reverberated throughout the academy. He hoped that some of the students would escape and leave behind more inheritances for Tianwu Academy. All students, listen up. Follow the elders and kill our way out. Sun Biyue shouted. Tears welled up in her eyes when she saw the tragic deaths of the students. She shouted for the students to escape. They could not wait to die. Chapter 5:23. Many elders immediately thought of a way to gather together and attack together, intending to break out of the encirclement with some students. The Dark Nether sect's experts immediately appeared and sealed off the path as they began their massacre. Bang, bang, bang. A fierce battle broke out. The talismans shattered, and the mysterious inscriptions on the talismans were destroyed. Under the siege of the Dark Nether sect's experts, many elders were severely injured and could not defend themselves. Many of the students who had gathered were shocked. Under such an intense battle, the weaker students trembled violently. Open up a path of blood. Elder Liao, Elder He Hu, and the others shouted. Even though they were injured, they still activated their spirit and talisman weapons and attacked with all their might. Elder Sun Biyue and Elder Morong Shi took the opportunity to set up a talisman formation and tried their best to open up a path of blood. They led the group of students to break out of the encirclement. Under such circumstances, if they could let one more student escape, they would let one more student escape. Piske. None of you will be able to escape. The Dark Nether sect's expert shouted coldly with a hint of mockery in his voice. Waves of cold and bloody auras swept out. They would not let the Tianwu Academy's disciples escape. The Dark Nether sect's people wanted to kill them all. Waves of terrifying attacks swept out and killed a few of the Academy's elders who were weaker. Many students were also affected by the attacks. They didn't even have time to scream before their bodies turned into blood mist. I'll fight it out with all of you. Elder He Hu, Elder Liao, and the others shouted in grief and anger. They attacked with all their might, but the situation was getting worse. Rumble. As the earth quaked and the mountains collapsed, more elders from the academy were killed. Although many members of the Dark Nether sect were killed during the chaos, the number of deaths was much fewer compared to the number of deaths in Tianwu Academy. Elders. When the Tianwu Academy's students saw their elders dying in order to protect them, they cried out in grief. Their eyes were bloodshot, and tears welled up in their eyes. Kill. Let's fight it out with them. All the students shouted. Their bloodlust was aroused. and their eyes were bloodshot as they fought with all their might. However, the battle in the sky was so intense that most of the Tianwu Academies and Dark Nether Sects members did not dare to get close to it. Ordinary people could not interfere in such an intense battle. The sun was setting, the red clouds dimmed, and the sky darkened. However, in the sky above the ancient grounds of Tianwu Academy, there was a dazzling radiance as runes flickered. The only thing that could be heard was the miserable shrieks and howls, as well as the rumbling of the sonic booms. On the plaza outside the Heaven Martial Talisman realm, blood had long since flowed like a river, causing one's hair to stand on end. Chi-la-la, all of a sudden, not many people noticed that in a certain area of the plaza outside the Heavenly Martial Talisman, there was a sudden burst of light, following which there were dazzling talisman runes surging. Then, the sky above suddenly began to distort. Spatial folds appeared in the surrounding space, and spatial waves rippled out in all directions. Finally, they condensed into a spatial gate formed by mysterious runes, as though it had directly torn space apart. As the aura grew denser, it finally attracted the attention of many people. Under the attentive gazes of several people, they were astonished to see golden light spreading out from within the spatial symbol puppet's mysterious inscription door. Boom! The light was dazzling, and then a huge shadow of a five-fingered mountain flew out from the spatial gate. A domineering aura spread out, and the sound was like the sound of wind and thunder. Dense spiritual energy spread out, and the pressure was rolling. Swoosh, 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 following which, the golden light from the shadow of the mountain slowly dissipated, and the figures of extraordinary men and women appeared in the sky. All of them had an imposing appearance, and all of them were extraordinary. Especially the dozen people at the front, they were not simple at all. Second brother, I've already done my best. I can't do anything else, so I need to lay low for a period of time. Be careful. Du Xiaoyao's voice came from the shadow of the golden mountain. Then, it turned into a palm-sized rock and landed on Du Xiaofu's palm. Du Xiaoyao had exhausted too much energy, and he had used all his strength to bring everyone back. Although he had consumed many elixirs and spiritual herbs, he could no longer hold on. He had already exhausted all his strength. At this moment, the extraordinary figures of men and women were none other than the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others who had returned from the martial role after Du Xiaoyao had consumed numerous pills, elixirs, and spirit artifacts to activate her innate talent. The general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, and the others looked at their surroundings. When they saw the blood flowing like a river and the academy turned into ruins, their eyes turned scarlet red, and profound energy surged out from their bodies. Senior Du is back. General Bu Dian, Lady Ling Xian, Gu Xinyan, they're back? They're back. They didn't abandon us. When the students of Tianwu Academy saw those familiar figures, joy filled their eyes and agitation filled their hearts. Sigh, only the Supreme Elder of Qingyu Island, Vice Dean Zhuge Qiangbong, and the others sighed softly. They did not know if they should be happy or worried when they saw those figures returning. Du Xiaofu put away Du Xiaoyao's mountain and looked at the tragic battle around him. His clear eyes shone with a cold golden light as he spoke through gritted teeth. Those who offend Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. Wang. Du Xiaofu directly summoned the tyrant shadow after those sharp words sounded. A shocking aura immediately swept out, causing many people to suddenly shiver. The depths of their souls also trembled as their gazes landed on the tyrant shadow in shock. Those who offend Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. The general, Gu Xinyan, and the others shouted in unison. Their eyes were bloodshot from the intense battle. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they charged toward the Dark Nether Sect's men. Roar! The little tiger roared as it revealed its true form. Black talisman inscriptions soared into the sky as it flapped its wings and charged toward the Dark Nether Sect's members. Oomph! Du Xiaoqing shouted as a terrifying aura burst out from her graceful body. A dazzling green light shone as she charged into the crowd of Dark Nether Sect's members and began her massacre. Spurt! Elder Murong, she was heavily injured from the encirclement on the ground. His body was sent flying as blood spurted from his mouth. He could not resist at all. Die! A dark nether sect's martial marquis chased after Morong-shi. His aura was sharp and bloody, and he moved as fast as lightning. In just a blink of an eye, he appeared before Morong-shi and slashed out with his saber. He wanted to tear the space apart and kill Morong-shi. Die! A golden figure appeared like a bolt of golden lightning. Du Xiaofu's figure was wrapped in golden profound energy as he appeared before Morong-shi. Without any delay, he raised his hand and slashed out with his sword. Wong! It seemed like a simple slash, but the sound of wind and thunder instantly reverberated in the air. An azure gold light shone brightly, and the sword ray instantly reached the dark nether sect's martial marquis at lightning speed. It was a simple slash, but it was enough to shake mountains and rivers. It caused mountains to crumble and the ground to crack. It was enough to destroy everything. Wherever the sword light passed, a long trench appeared on the ground of the square below, one after another. Swish! Swish! Before the dark nether sect's martial marquis could regain his senses, his saber ray was destroyed. His spirit weapon was shattered into pieces. In the end, even his body was slashed into two. He was killed by the sword. Kill! Du Xiaofu was enraged. His eyes gleamed coldly as he waved his hand and unleashed the tyrant shadow. Every slash of the sword could turn the dark nether sect's members into blood mist. What made the dark nether sect's members even more fearful was that Du Xiaofu completely ignored their attacks. He revealed his most brutal side as he waved the tyrant shadow in his hand. The dark nether sect's members were killed one after another, including a few martial marquis. They could not even withstand a single blow from him. This kid is powerful. His weapon is even more extraordinary. Let's join forces and kill him. The dark nether sect's members realized how terrifying Du Xiaofu was. It was difficult for anyone to stop the purple-robed young man. Even a martial marquis at the peak of the perfected martial marquis stage would tremble when facing him alone. Therefore, they immediately gathered more than 20 martial marquis stage powerhouses and attacked Du Xiaofu with all their might. Their bodies were wrapped in vein soul silhouettes. Boom! Boom! In an instant, a vast and terrifying energy engulfed Du Xiaofu. A rumbling sound reverberated in the air as the cold and sharp energy swept across the sky. Even an ordinary martial king would have to retreat when facing such a terrifying attack. Die! All of you! Du Xiaofu let out a cold shout. Fierce murderous aura rippled around his body. Instead of retreating, he moved forward. Layers of light bloomed on top of the tyrant shadow in his hand, turning into layers of green-gold sword whips that swept out like spirit pythons, flood dragons, and giant rocks. Bang! 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 The azure gold sword whips shot out fiercely. They were agile and bewitching. They were dazzling and dazzling. At the same time, they killed the 20 dark nether sect's martial marquis stage powerhouses who had activated their vein souls at an unbelievable angle. Thud! 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 However, under the joint attack of the 20 or so martial marquis experts, Du Xiaofu's figure also staggered back a few steps. His face was slightly pale, as if he had been affected quite a bit. Kill! Du Xiaofu stabilized his body and continued to attack the dark nether sect's members ferociously. It was as though he could ignore all the attacks. Sword rays shot out and charged forward. Wherever they passed, it was a nightmare for the dark nether sect's members. Whoosh! Many dark nether sect's members were mercilessly killed by Du Xiaofu. Then, a perfected martial marquis stage powerhouse's special armor was shattered by Du Xiaofu's sword. The powerhouse spat out a mouthful of blood and was forced to activate the strange armored beast vein soul. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu wielded the tyrant shadow. At the same time, the golden talisman inscriptions on his body shone brightly like the rising sun. His domineering and fierce aura suddenly intensified and swept out. Then, a pair of talisman inscriptions' wings flapped on his back and soared into the 9 heavens like a roc's. Whoosh! The mighty pressure on the tyrant shadow intensified and channeled the heaven and earth energy. It directly killed the perfected martial marquis stage powerhouse from Dark Nether Sect in midair. Continue writing. Looking for fresh flowers and recommendations. Chapter 524. Kill. Du Xiaoqing made her move. At this moment, her pure and innocent eyes had turned cold and intimidating. A terrifying energy fluctuation accompanied by a terrifying pressure that was not inferior to the golden-winged rock's aura spread out. Her long black hair fluttered behind her back as her seductive and graceful body flashed. A large number of dark nether sex members were killed as easily as withered twigs. That purple-robed boy and the green-dressed girl are powerful. Quickly kill them. The cold-masked old man who was fighting fiercely with Vice Dean Zhuge Changbong immediately shouted when he noticed Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoqing's terrifying strength. Kill this girl. The three Martial King realm experts from Dark Nether Sect sensed the terrifying aura on Du Xiaoqing's body and immediately joined forces to besiege Du Xiaoqing. Die. An old man who was wearing a mask and a cloak blocked Du Xiaofu's path. He was holding a strange curved saber that was at the level of a talisman weapon. It was like a crescent moon with strange and ferocious patterns engraved on it. There was a curved handle and a dagger-like inner blade in the saber. The saber radiance swept out and slashed toward Du Xiaofu. Kill. Du Xiaofu was as ferocious as a peerless beast. The talisman wings on his back fluttered like a rock descending. His long black hair fluttered behind his shoulders. The tyrannical shadow in his hand continuously struck the opponent's curved saber talisman weapon. Sparks flew in all directions as the talisman symbols soared into the sky. How can a mere martial marquis be so powerful? The old man who was fighting fiercely with Du Xiaofu became more and more fearful as the battle went on. The purple-robed young man was indeed terrifyingly powerful. His domineering strength swept out like a peerless rock, causing his saber-wielding arm to go numb and the profound qi in his body to surge. Let's kill this kid together. A few martial marquis experts from the Dark Nether sect stepped out. Among them, there were probably some who were at the peak of the consummate martial marquis realm. They charged towards Du Xiaofu, wanting to kill Du Xiaofu. They all felt that this purple-robed young man was too terrifying. Tyrant Shadow Transformation. Du Xiaofu brandished his tyrannical shadow, his figure drifting like a god. His aura was ferocious and ferocious, his eyes glittering with golden light. Tyrannical shadow was bewitching, like a great rock moving through the sky. Du Xiaofu actually took the opportunity to kill a martial lord under his sword whip. Kill this brat. The old man from the Dark Nether sect, who was at the initial Martial King realm, was furious. He did not expect that even with so many people besieging him, they still could not do anything to the brat. Instead, another martial marquis was killed. He was instantly enraged. The curved talisman weapon in his hand fiercely emitted a saber ray. The saber ray wrapped in talisman symbols swept towards Du Xiaofu like a wave. Du Xiaofu was ferocious and ferocious. At this moment, his killing intent exploded. However, his mind was not clouded by his killing intent. Naturally, he would not forcefully resist this majestic attack. Whoosh whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure drifted like a god. Together with the speed of the golden-winged rock, the two of them merged into one. With an unbelievable angle and speed, they barely dodged the terrifying saber ray. Qi. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's shoulder was pierced by the spear of a martial marquis. Instantly, a shallow bloody hole appeared on his shoulder and blood flowed out. If it was someone else, their entire shoulder would have been pierced through by the spear. The consequences were unimaginable. Boom. Just as his shoulder was pierced by the spear, Du Xiaofu waved his hand and flapped the sky-shaking wings. Golden talisman mysterious inscriptions swept out like a giant rock flapping its wings. It directly sent the martial marquis flying, causing him to spit out blood. Whoosh whoosh, however, at the same time. A few martial marquis and the Dark Nether sect's old man who had just ascended to the Martial King stage besieged him again. Du Xiaofu did not want to give up. His body flapped his wings continuously as he dodged and pounced on the martial marquis who was holding the spear. My life is over. Finally, under the unwilling and resentful gaze of the martial marquis, Du Xiaofu pierced through his chest with a single sword strike, chasing him down and killing him. Come on, kill. Du Xiaofu sneered. At this moment, the more he killed, the more brutal he became. His eyes were bloodshot. While being besieged by many dark nether sex powerhouses, the runic wings on his back flapped. He was extremely valiant as he fought head-on with the Martial King stage powerhouse who had just ascended to the Martial King stage. The battle was too tragic. All the Academy's students were moved when they saw it from the corner of their eyes. They saw Du Xiaofu's body was drenched in blood, but he was still brutally fighting against his enemies. He killed his way in and out of the encirclement of the dark nether sex powerhouses. He was extremely valiant. His body was covered in wounds, but he was not afraid at all. He did not even take half a step back. At this moment, everyone in the Academy had engraved that valiant figure in the depths of their souls. It stimulated and encouraged them to do their best to kill their enemies. Kill this brat. The Martial King stage old man from the Dark Nether sect was extremely furious. He communicated with his martial vein and activated his vein soul. His figure transformed into a terrifying black demon wolf. The vein soul activated by a Martial King stage cultivator was even more terrifying than a Martial Marquis stage cultivator. It was as though his body had transformed into a real demon beast. The demon wolf held the talisman weapon scimitar in its sharp claws and swept it toward Du Xiaofu. Kill. Du Xiaofu still did not retreat. The tyrannical shadow sword in his hand shone brightly. The wings on his back were overbearing as he began his massacre. Qi. Another perfected Martial Marquis stage, dark nether sex cultivator was pierced between his eyebrows by Du Xiaofu. The runic symbol shattered, and fresh blood spurted out. He was killed on the spot. The scene was terrifying. Qila, at the same time. The Martial King stage old man from the Dark Nether sect finally broke through Du Xiaofu's defense with his scimitar talisman weapon and landed on Du Xiaofu's back. Qila la. Wherever the scimitar passed, the runic wings on Du Xiaofu's back were directly shattered. A deep, bloody wound appeared on his back, and pale golden blood spurted out violently. At this moment, an ordinary cultivator with the same cultivation base, even a peak-perfected Martial Marquis, would definitely be cut into two by the talisman weapon of a Martial King stage, early stage cultivator. Pooh! Du Xiaofu's body staggered forward, and he almost fell. A large mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Kill. As his body staggered forward, Du Xiaofu was still spitting out blood. However, he still gritted his teeth and sneered. He swung his sword, and the sword whip pierced through the air. Another Martial Marquis stage, dark nether sex cultivator was killed by Du Xiaofu. What a ferocious guy. Looking at Du Xiaofu's ferocious aura, the dark nether sex people present were completely shocked. The purple-robed young man was too ferocious. It was simply terrifying. Bastard, I'll definitely cut you into pieces today. When the Martial King stage, early stage, dark nether sex cultivator who had activated his pulse soul saw that the purple-robed young man was still able to kill one dark nether sex disciple after another under his suppression, he was so enraged that he almost went crazy. He waved his wolf claws, and the saber ray on his curved talisman weapon flashed as he slashed it toward Du Xiaofu again. You won't be able to kill him today. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly resonated in the sky. After that, a rune energy beam shot out from thin air, and it directly distorted the air like a fried dough twist. The energy in this area also began to tremble violently before it directly collided with the saber ray of the Martial Marquis stage, early stage, dark nether sex old man. Bang! When the two collided, a terrifying energy swept out in an instant. Majestic energy rippled out, and a large number of runes shattered. The ground below shook, and cracks appeared everywhere. Oomph! The Martial King stage, early stage, dark nether sex old man who had activated his pulse soul staggered back dozens of meters. A muffled groan came from his throat, and blood immediately flowed out from the corner of his hideous mouth. His ferocious eyes were filled with violent fluctuations. Tsk tisked. Soon after, two figures descended from the sky. One of them was a gray-robed old man. His aura was rippling, and it was enough to shake one's soul. The other one was a one-eyed burly man. At this moment, his single eye was gradually shrouded in the night sky, and it was as sharp as a large saber. Old Yao, Eagle King. Du Xiaofu was slightly surprised. He did not expect the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, to come. Du Xiaofu was slightly puzzled. Could it be that Senior Han Xiao and the others had arrived at the disordered demon city so quickly? Even if Senior Han Xiao and the others had arrived at the disordered demon city, the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, and the Eagle King, Gong Dao, would not have arrived at Tianwu Academy so quickly unless they had already left. Yi Wuming from Tianwu Academy is here to help. Whoever dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy, I'll kill them all. As the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, appeared, he swept his gaze across the intense battle. His eyes turned crimson, and killing intent surged out from him as he shouted loudly, "Are you all right? I'm here to help." The Medicine King was also a student of Tianwu Academy's Talisman Department back then. After receiving news of the calamity in Tianwu Academy, we rushed over. The Eagle King, Gong Dao, landed beside Du Xiaofu. He seemed to have noticed Du Xiaofu's surprise and explained to Du Xiaofu, "So, old Yao is actually from Tianwu Academy?" Du Xiaofu was shocked. He didn't expect the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, to be a student of Tianwu Academy. It was no wonder why the Medicine King would appear to help him when he fought for the ethereal spirit, Heavenly Vine in the dark forest. It turned out that the great Medicine King, Yi Wuming, was actually from Tianwu Academy back then. Who dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy? Do you think that there's no one in Tianwu Academy? Stone Dragon Empire's South Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Qi, is here. Stone Dragon Empire's East Vanquishing Prince, General Jinghua, is here. Who dares to lay a finger on Tianwu Academy? As the Medicine King, Yi Wuming's voice sounded, two thunderous roars could be heard from the distant sky. Boom! Following which, two figures wrapped in runes descended from the sky. Two majestic old men appeared. They were the Stone Dragon Empire's South Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Qi, and East Vanquishing Prince, General Jinghua. They were once students of Tianwu Academy. So how could they bear to see Tianwu Academy suffer a calamity? The Turing Empire's Xiaoming monarch has arrived. Those who bully my Tianwu Empire will be killed without mercy. In a short instant, another roar sounded like that of a wild beast. An expert shrouded in multicolored light descended. His aura was overwhelming and he was definitely a king. The Turing Empire's Xiaoming monarch was rumored to be one of the top experts in the Turing Empire. His name had shaken the empire for close to 100 years. He was also once a student of Tianwu Academy. Within Tianwu Academy, the students were shocked and trembled in excitement. Who would have thought that so many king-level experts would arrive in such a short period of time? All of them were influential figures, and all of them were legendary figures. All of them had one thing in common, and that was that they had all graduated from Tianwu Academy. The Central Continent's Dai Clan's lightning racing monarch has arrived to protect our Tianwu Academy. Another person shouted as he followed closely behind Xiaoming monarch. The Central Continent's He Clan's soul-splitting monarch has arrived. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. The Bright Sun Empire's king has arrived. Who dares to offend our Tianwu Academy? The Central Continent's Daybreak Sect's Night Star monarch has arrived to protect our Tianwu Academy. Within a short period of time, thunderous roars resounded from the dark forest outside Tianwu Academy. One after another, King Realm experts arrived. Xiaoming Monarch, Lightning Racing Monarch, Soul-Splitting Monarch, Night Star Monarch, and the other experts had all graduated from Tianwu Academy. They were experts who had made a name for themselves for dozens of years, or even hundreds of years. They were already the kings of their respective countries, and their names spread far and wide. However, these King Realm experts had all returned. Upon receiving news of the calamity that had befallen the Academy, they rushed over without any hesitation to provide reinforcements. They're back, they're back, they're back. As more and more King Realm experts arrived to provide reinforcements, loud roars sounded from all directions. Many elders of Tianwu Academy were moved to tears. The experts of our Tianwu Academy have returned to protect our academy. Kill. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. Within Tianwu Academy, all of the students felt their blood boiling. Their bodies trembled in excitement as they fought with all their might. At this moment, a storm was brewing in Tianwu Academy. Experts had returned from all directions to protect the academy, summon all readers, summon fresh flowers, and assist in the battle for the fresh flower list. Chapter 525. When the members of Tianwu Academy saw the experts who had left the academy returning one after another, and the kings who had traveled all the way here to reinforce Tianwu Academy, they couldn't help but feel their blood boiling. In an instant, their fighting spirit surged, and their fighting prowess soared. The leaders of the Dark Nether sect did not expect so many kings to come to Tianwu Academy's rescue. Therefore, the experts from the Dark Nether sect were unable to gain any advantage over the Tianwu Academy. The South-vanquishing prince, Ouyang Qi, is here. Kill. A majestic old man with a resolute face appeared. One could tell that he must have been handsome and elegant when he was young. At this moment, he stepped into the air and attacked rapidly. Talismans and mysterious inscriptions appeared in his hands and killed the Dark Nether sect's members as easily as breaking twigs. The East-vanquishing prince, Zhenghua, is here. Those who touch my Tianwu Academy will pay with their blood. A majestic figure appeared in the air. His aura was so imposing that it could suppress mountains and rivers. His appearance was somewhat similar to the omniscient mountain and river general. When the palm print in his hand landed, the talisman soared into the sky and suppressed mountains and rivers. A large number of Dark Nether sect's members were turned into a bloody mist. Kill. The Medicine King, Yi Wuming, made his move. With a wave of his hand, several puppets that looked like they were made of metal flew out and charged into the Dark Nether sect's ranks. These were the puppets that the Medicine King had researched during this period of time. Although they were not at the king grade, they were strong enough to kill ordinary martial marquises. Destroy. The Eagle King's gong saber attacked while standing beside Du Xiaofu. Claw Prince swept through the air and tore the Dark Nether sect's members into pieces. Bang, bang, bang. As the kings of Tianwu Academy returned, many of the Dark Nether sect's members were killed. Stop those kings. Quick. The old man who led the Dark Nether sect's group, who was fighting with Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong, shouted. He ordered the Dark Nether sect's king-grade experts to stop the kings of Tianwu Academy's reinforcements. Even king-grade experts can't save Tianwu Academy. The king-grade experts of Dark Nether sect immediately gave up on killing the elders and students and charged toward the king-grade experts who were coming to save Tianwu Academy. Protect Tianwu Academy with your life. The lightning racing king roared. The rune energy beam in his hand shot out like a thunderbolt, destroying everything in its path. It smashed towards the experts of the Dark Nether sect. A king realm expert of the Dark Nether sect was blasted into a mist of blood. The lightning racing king had killed a king realm expert with just one strike. His might was unparalleled. The surrounding Dark Nether sect's members were frightened and fled in all directions. Bastard! Lightning racing king, does the Dai family of the Central Plains also want to get involved? Shouted a gloomy old man wearing a mask. He was definitely not an ordinary king warrior. He tried to stop the lightning racing king. So it's the bastard from the Dark Nether sect who dared to touch my Tianwu Academy. When the experts of my Tianwu Academy return in the future, I'll definitely raise your Dark Nether sect to the ground. Lightning Racing King roared fearlessly. As a student of Tianwu Academy, he had the temperament of Tianwu Academy. Fearless and fearless, he attacked the old man. Streaks of terrifying energy swept across the sky. Kill. In just a short time, the ancient land was covered in blood. Killing intent soared into the sky. Eyes turned red from killing and blood flowed like a river. Du Xiaofu stared at the sky, his heart trembling. The experts who had left Tianwu Academy in the past had not forgotten about the academy. When the academy was in trouble, they had come all the way here to help. They were also a part of Tianwu Academy. However, although Du Xiaofu was trembling in fear, he still looked solemn. The experts who had come to help Tianwu Academy were all martial kings. Although they were king realm experts, there were obviously a few terrifying opponents who were beyond the martial king realm in the Dark Nether sect. Those opponents seemed to be at the martial royal realm. At this moment, only those terrifying martial royal realm experts could determine the outcome of the battle. Bang! Bang! Above the battlefield in the sky, there were violent muffled sounds of energy. Then, the first elder of Tianwu Academy's inner yard was sent flying away. He spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, the talisman patterns on the white crane meridian soul that the great elder had already activated were also scattered, turning into fragments. You are a half-martial royal after all. You are no match for me. A skinny masked man with a sharp aura shouted coldly. Then, a palm print landed on the first elder's body like a bolt of lightning. The great elder's aged body directly fell from the sky, smashing into the ground like a meteor. The ground trembled, as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. Countless pieces of rubble shot out. First elder. Du Xiaofu's face changed drastically. His injured figure immediately dashed down and arrived beside the first elder, who was drenched in blood. His face was as pale as ash, and his aura was extremely weak. Lad, I am very comforted by your return. However, you shouldn't have disobeyed me. You shouldn't have returned. Promise me that you will leave this place quickly and leave behind the legacy of Tianwu Academy. One day, when you are strong enough, you will make the academy pay with their blood for everything that happened today. The first elder stared at Du Xiaofu as he spoke intermittently. When he spat out a mouthful of blood, his gaze on Du Xiaofu dissipated. He closed his eyes and his vitality dissipated. First elder. Many of the academy's elders and students cried out in grief when they saw that the first elder had fallen. Their hearts trembled, and some of them even had tears rolling down their cheeks. Du Xiaofu didn't shout. Instead, he looked at the old man who had guarded Tianwu Academy for his entire life and felt an urge to cry. Tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably, threatening to spill out. First elder, please rest in peace. Du Xiaofu gently placed the first elder's corpse in the pit filled with gravel. With a sweep of his hand, a pile of gravel buried the corpse. After which, Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on the skinny masked man who had just killed the first elder. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Tianwu Academy was his second home. To Du Xiaofu, Tianwu Academy had a strong sense of belonging. The members of Tianwu Academy were his family, and the first elder was his elder. Du Xiaofu could still vaguely remember that when he was unconscious, the first elder had helped him heal his injuries and fed him some medicinal pills. Those eyes that had been filled with worry for him were now closed, and it would be difficult for them to open again. Walala! Mysterious golden talisman patterns erupted from Du Xiaofu's body, which was riddled with scars. The deep saber wound on his back also gradually recovered. A tyrannical and intimidating aura suddenly erupted like a suppressed volcano. Wong, activating the tyrant shadow in his hand. The broken wings of runes on his back spread out once more under the golden radiance. Spreading his wings, he soared into the sky and pointed his sword at the skinny masked man. Kill. Du Xiaofu made his move. Activating the tyrant shadow, a golden radiance shone and runes flowed around it. The seemingly simple slash was accompanied by the rumbling of wind and thunder. The sword gleam extended toward the skinny masked man with the speed of lightning. Shio. This slash seemed to possess the might to move mountains and overturn seas. It was sufficient to cause the mountains to crumble and the earth to shatter, destroying everything in its path. What a formidable Tao artifact. It's a pity that it landed in the hands of a brat who overestimates himself. The skinny masked man sneered with disdain in his eyes. He waved his hand and a large amount of bloody and cold rune energy blocked the sword gleam like a shield. Walala. No matter how tyrannical and terrifying the sword radiance was, it was enough to make a martial king initial stage cultivator retreat. However, at this moment, it was unable to shake the runic shield at all. Boom. Seeing that he was unable to shake the rune shield of his opponent, Du Xiaofu's eyes surged with a golden light. The rune wings on his back erupted with dazzling runes, like a rising sun. An overbearing and fierce aura suddenly intensified as it swept out. Majestic light filled the air, like a great rock spreading its wings and soaring into the 9 heavens. Qi Law. Above the sword gleam, a mighty pressure intensified, channeling the energy of heaven and earth. It actually pierced the rune shield and caused it to fluctuate. It's not ordinary. The skinny masked man was surprised and then sneered. At the same time, he waved his hand and a terrifying devouring force erupted from the rune light shield. It directly devoured and destroyed the sword gleam. Boom! Then, the former's figure strangely appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, and a palm print suddenly smashed into Du Xiaofu's chest. Mysterious soul eye. Just as the terrifying palm print landed on Du Xiaofu's chest under many worried gazes, a strange rune suddenly spread out from Du Xiaofu's eyes. Qi. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes seemed to be filled with endless light. The rune light overlapped and finally enveloped the former's body like a ray of light. Qilal. Under the terrifying palm print, Du Xiaofu's body was directly blasted down. However, at the same time, the tyrant shadow in his hand turned into a sword whip. Like an azure gold lightning, it pierced towards the skinny masked man's chest in the instant the latter was stunned. In this short moment, the skinny masked man seemed to have suddenly felt something. His gaze changed a lot and was faintly sluggish. However, it was only for a short moment before he recovered. The skinny masked man immediately retreated and avoided his chest. However, the azure gold sword whip wrapped around his shoulder and destroyed the cold Xian Qi defense that had been affected by the sluggishness just now. The black robe on his shoulder was torn and a faint trace of blood was left on his shoulder. Although this sword strike was harmless to the skinny masked man, the power of the sword light had been secretly resisted, and he didn't suffer too much damage. However, Du Xiaofu still managed to leave a sword strike on him. Rumble. Du Xiaofu fiercely smashed into the messy square. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his entire body seemed to have fallen apart. Even his chest and ribs seemed to have fallen apart. A huge force swept out, and his internal organs were shaken. He was simply unable to contend against his opponent. Chapter 526. That was the legendary martial royal realm expert. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation level, he was still far from being able to contend against a martial royal realm expert. What a fierce boy! As Du Xiaofu made his move, East Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, Lightning Racing King, Broken Soul King, and the others all saw how fierce Du Xiaofu was. Although he was defeated by a martial royal realm expert without any suspense, not only did he survive a palm strike from a martial royal realm expert, but he was also able to make a martial royal realm expert look embarrassed. This was definitely not simple. A normal martial king realm expert could not even think about getting close to a martial royal realm expert, let alone a martial lord realm expert. Moreover, if a normal martial king realm expert was hit by a palm strike from a martial royal realm expert, he would most likely turn into a bloody mist. However, the purple-robed youth was still vigorous. That kind of defensive power was enough to be abnormal. Du Xiaofu spat out blood again. Then, he took out a lot of pills and directly stuffed them into his bloody mouth and swallowed them. Bastard! The skinny masked man was enraged. A mere martial marquis had put him in a difficult position, and his palm was actually unable to kill that brat. How could he let him go? Furthermore, he had to obtain that precious Dao artifact. Immediately, his figure pounced down like lightning. Brother, be careful, Du Xiaoqing shouted. She had been surrounded and attacked by 3 extraordinary martial kings and could not escape. Seeing that her brother was seriously injured and in danger, her beautiful face turned pale. At this moment, the sky was completely covered by the curtain of night, but the dazzling runes illuminated the surroundings as if it was daytime. The thin masked man appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. The mighty energy crushed Du Xiaofu, and a palm strike fiercely hit Du Xiaofu. Boy, be careful. Elder Zhou's aged figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu as the aged voice rang out. A palm print immediately shot out towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! A low-energy muffled sound, and dazzling runes shattered and shone in this part of the world. A large area of the ground cracked, and Elder Zhou's figure also staggered back a few steps. You can't even save yourself, and you still want to save others? A cold shout rang out. In this short moment, the opponent that had been fiercely fighting with Elder Zhou appeared like a ghost. A palm struck Elder Zhou's back like a bolt of lightning, sending Elder Zhou's old body flying. Blood immediately spurted from his mouth. Puffed. Elder Joes. With the impact of the heavens and earth, the mountain and the mountains, the mountain and the mountain. The impact of the impact, Kiki, it. 2. The marshal is een. Is nis ten two to twos ni two to twos and to ninin there is in brat, you must escape alive. You still owe me pills, and your father also owes me pills. When the time comes, you must return them to Tianwu Academy. You must leave behind a legacy for Tianwu Academy. Elder Zhou struggled to get up. He turned his head to look at Du Xiaofu, who was covered in blood and whose body had fallen apart. A slight smile appeared on his old face. Then, he took a step forward and immediately pounced toward the two Martial Emperor stage Dark Nether Sects experts who were closing in on him. A cruel smile appeared on his face, and it sent chills down the spines of those who saw it. Elder Zhou, Du Xiaofu shouted. When he saw Elder Zhou's final smile, Du Xiaofu felt uneasy. Du Xiaofu felt that Elder Zhou's smile contained a magnanimous attitude toward death. Not good. This guy wants to fight with his life on the line. Suddenly, the two Martial Emperor stage Dark Nether Sects experts, who were closing in on him, seemed to have sensed something. They immediately retreated as if they had seen a ghost. You dare to offend my Tianwu Academy? Even if I die, I'll make you pay the price. As soon as Elder Zhou finished shouting, his body suddenly swelled up. Dazzling talisman scripts wrapped around him. Then, the talisman scripts on his body condensed into a spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron. His body merged with the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron, drawing in the energy of heaven and earth. It was as if the sun and stars had descended. At this moment, the aura on Elder Zhou's body was even stronger than when he was at his peak. His figure quickly appeared beside the two Martial Marquee stage Dark Nether Sects experts who were about to retreat. In just a short instant, Elder Zhou's spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron exploded like a bomb along with his body. At this moment, the two Martial Emperor stage experts from Dark Nether Sect felt their hair stand on end. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion resounded in the night sky of this ancient world that was in a mess. In an instant, destructive energy burst forth, causing ripples to appear in a large area of the void. The entire plaza outside the Tianwu talisman boundary was destroyed. Huge rocks exploded, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. Whoosh! Dazzling symbol runes blossomed along with blazing flames, like a rising sun in the night sky. Terrifying waves of blazing flames swept across the sky like waves, sweeping across the land, causing the temperature of the land to suddenly rise to a terrifying level. How terrifying! What's going on in there? In the dark forest outside Tianwu Academy, more and more figures looked at the distant sky. The terrifying temperature and vast power caused people to tremble in fear even though they were far away. They were drenched in sweat and their faces were pale. Fear spread from the depths of their souls. In Tianwu Academy, both parties that were engaged in an intense battle began to back away from the battlefield. Gulp! That terrifying pressure and energy burst forth in the vicinity of the crowd, causing many people's mouths and tongues to dry up as they swallowed their saliva and shivered all over. In a short period of time, a large area of land and many mountains in the vicinity were razed to the ground. Elder Zhou had done this intentionally. Many Dark Nether Sects disciples were affected and were killed on the spot. In the dazzling night sky, the waves of fire talisman scripts turned into ripples and spread out. They spread into the distance before gradually dissipating. Two figures were sent flying and landed on two nearby mountains. Bang! Bang! Two figures fell from the sky like two bombs. At the same time, they smashed the mountain peak into pieces, causing huge rocks to roll down and the earth to shake. They were the two martial monarchs from the Dark Nether Sect. Puff, puff, puff. The two martial monarchs from Dark Nether Sect rushed out of the collapsed mountain in a wretched state. Their bodies were drenched in blood and blood was spurting out from their mouths. Under the violent impact, many bloody wounds appeared on their bodies. Dark red blood seeped out from their black robes. Even their bones could be seen. The masks on their faces were cracked and blood was seeping out from them. Damn that spiritual cauldron explosion. The two dark nether sects martial king stage powerhouses no longer had their original gloominess. Their eyes were filled with shock as they had just escaped death. Fear still lingered in their hearts from their miserable appearances. If they were half a step slower, they would have been killed on the spot. However, even if the two of them managed to keep their lives, they were still severely injured. It would take them at least 5 to 10 years to recover from their injuries. Elder Zhou. The surrounding Tianwu Academy elders and many students cried out in grief. Elder Zhou had turned into ashes and died on the spot. Du Xiaofu's figure was buried under the rubble in the square. He struggled to crawl out and used the tyrant shadow to support his body. His body was drenched in blood as he looked at the gradually dissipating fire in the sky. At this moment, his pale golden eyes were bloodshot. In order to save his life, Elder Zhou's soul was destroyed in the end. The spiritual cauldron explosion had caused his death. How tragic was that? Elder Zhou. Du Xiaofu raised his head and roared. His voice was filled with grief. It was heart-wrenching. His voice soared into the sky like thunder, causing the hearts of those who heard it to bleed. Brother. Upon hearing her brother's heart-wrenching cry, Du Xiaoqing, who was being held back by 3 extraordinary martial monarchs, cried out. Something seemed to have awakened in her pure eyes. A crimson light began to spread out like a dancing flame. Waves of terrifying crimson light instantly spread out from her body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Du Xiaoqing seemed to have received some kind of intense stimulation. The crimson light began to cover her delicate body like a cocoon. It grew larger and larger. The speed at which the crimson light cocoon covered was extremely fast. In just a few blinks of an eye, it had completely covered the surrounding space. A terrifying energy fluctuation accompanied by a terrifying pressure also spread out. What's going on? Upon seeing Du Xiaoqing's transformation, the expressions of the 3 extraordinary martial monarchs from Dark Nether sect changed drastically as well. The terrifying pressure caused them to feel uneasy for no reason. In just a short period of time, the crimson light cocoon that covered Du Xiaoqing's body began to emit dazzling talisman inscriptions. They were like countless threads of energy. The energy fluctuation became more and more terrifying. It was as though a volcano was about to erupt. Beep. A sharp beep that pierced one's soul could be vaguely heard from the crimson light cocoon. After that, the talisman inscriptions exploded. In just a blink of an eye, the crimson light cocoon that was growing larger and larger shattered. Following that, a gigantic crimson light bird that was only a few hundred feet in size flapped its wings and appeared. A terrifying aura immediately descended upon the ancient world. The gigantic crimson bird was shaped like a crane. It only had 1 leg. It had crimson inscriptions on its body and a white beak. Its entire body was covered in crimson stripes and beautiful crimson feathers. It looked like a phoenix, a crane, and a phoenix. The domineering aura around it was accompanied by a blazing aura that caused the air in the surrounding space to evaporate into white smoke. Roar. As the gigantic crimson bird appeared, the little tiger in the distance also roared. Its eyes were filled with awe. What kind of demonic beast is that? Why is its pressure so peerless? At this moment, countless pairs of eyes in the sky trembled. Under the pressure of the gigantic crimson bird that looked like a phoenix, a crane, and a phoenix, everyone's pulse souls could not help but tremble. This caused the people who were fighting with their pulse souls to be affected the most. Those who were weaker were directly crushed to the point of prostrating themselves on the ground. Die! Du Xiaoqing's delicate voice rang out from the gigantic crimson bird's white beak. After that, it opened its mouth. Billowing flames accompanied by monstrous talisman inscriptions shot out like a volcano. I'm continuing to write. It's the last 2 days of this month. I'm begging for fresh flowers. Brothers, give me all your fresh flowers. Don't waste them when the time comes. Does anyone know what Little Qing's true form is now? Chapter 5:27. Raging flames erupted. The temperature of the flames was so high that it caused people to crawl in pain and their souls to wither. In just a blink of an eye, the raging flames enveloped the 3 extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect in a peculiar manner and speed. Oh no! The three extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect who were besieging Du Shaoqing felt the high temperature of the flames. Even their souls were trembling. It was too late for them to escape. The surrounding space was engulfed in raging flames, as though it had turned into a sea of fire. Whoosh! Whoosh! The three extraordinary martial kings from Dark Nether sect attacked with all their might. Talisman runes erupted, and a chilly aura soared into the sky. However, it was destroyed by the talisman runes in the raging flames. The terrifying flame exploded, burning the space and everything in its path. The three extraordinary martial kings from the Dark Nether sect were no longer able to withstand it. Vice sect leader, Grand Elder, save us. Save us. The eyes of the three extraordinary Dark Nether sect's martial king realm experts under their masks were filled with fear. They loudly cried for help from Old Man In Nether and the cold-looking old man. However, Old Man In Ming and the cold-looking old man were also blocked by Yu Yu's Supreme Elder and Zhuge Qiangbang. Although they had the upper hand, it was difficult for them to escape. In Ming, don't even think about saving them, Yu Yu's Supreme Elder shouted. A terrifying energy erupted from his shriveled body and trapped Old Man In Ming. Yu, I'm not going to play with you today. Tianwu Academy is responsible for my second brother's death in the Dark Forest. Today, I'll destroy Tianwu Academy. Old Man In Ming shouted coldly. Back then, his second brother had come to the Dark Forest to test Tianwu Academy's strength with the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. He did not expect that he would die in the Dark Forest. Waves of attacks swept toward Yu Yu's Supreme Elder. The three martial kings from Dark Nether sect were trapped and could not escape to save them. However, Old Man In Ming did not seem to care at all. In Ming, I have forgotten that your second brother is that little In Ming, right? The two of you have committed many evil deeds. Unfortunately, your second brother was not strong enough and was killed by Grandma Silverflower. He deserved it. Supreme Elder Qing Yu shouted coldly, trying to provoke Old Man In Ming. He wanted to find an opportunity to suppress Old Man In Ming, but it was difficult to do so. Instead, he was suppressed by Old Man In Ming. To think that there would be a legendary existence in Tianwu Academy, the divine bird by Fong. My horizons have been broadened today. At this moment, a terrifying aura came from the distant night sky. In an instant, the night sky was shrouded in scarlet, as if a sea of blood was spreading out. Suddenly, a terrifying aura descended, making people feel as if their blood was boiling, as if it was being sucked away by something terrifying. That terrifying aura was so strong that it was terrifying to the extreme. That was the aura of a super expert. As the sea of blood spread out, there seemed to be a pair of blood-red eyes within the sea of blood. It was as if a red star had appeared within the sea of blood, looking down on the world. It was incomparably terrifying. Welcome, Sect Master. As the sea of blood spread out in the night sky, a huge pair of blood-red eyes looked down on the world. Someone from the Dark Nether sect greeted respectfully. Shuiyao, so you're the Sect Master of the Dark Nether sect? High up in the sky, Supreme Elder Qing Yu looked at the sea of blood in the sky with trembling eyes. Many of the seniors in Tianwu Academy looked at the churning sea of blood in the sky, and they were shocked by it. Blood Demon had always been the #1 existence on Tianwu Academy's bounty board. Over the years, the names on the bounty board had been removed and changed constantly. However, Blood Demon remained at the top of the board. It had been 100 years or even longer, but there had been no changes to his ranking. Divine Bird by Fong, it seems like you have gained a lot today. The sea of blood surged and covered the sky. There were talismans and mysterious inscriptions in the sea of blood. In the end, it turned into a huge blood-red claw that distorted space and grabbed at the green-red giant bird below. Shuiyao, it has been so many years. You're still not dead? It was also at this moment that an elderly and gentle voice was suddenly emitted from the vast sky. An energy handprint penetrated through space and arrived from the distant sky at the same time. It caused the entire high ground to appear to have solidified in an instant, after which it directly collided with the blood-colored claw. The collision of energy caused the surrounding space to distort. It was visible to the naked eye, and it actually caused a large area of space to crack and shatter. Crackle! Everything was destroyed easily. In the end, the blood-red claw and the energy palm turned into dazzling talisman symbols that filled the sky and slowly dissipated. Within the blood sea, the intimidating pair of eyes that resembled blood-colored stars stared into the distance. A sharp and bloody voice sounded, "Grandma Silverflower, you're still alive. This isn't the Dark Forest. This is a matter of Tianwu Academy. Don't overstep your boundaries." Tianwu Academy is also in the Dark Forest. Such a huge commotion will affect the Dark Forest. Retreat. Otherwise, I will definitely interfere. As the old and gentle voice sounded again, the sky in front of them silently changed color. At this moment, it was as though a bright moon had suddenly descended in the night sky. Its brilliance scattered across this ancient land. Boom! Then, a dazzling ball of light floated in the sky like a bright moon. A terrifying aura overflowed from the ball of light, causing all the ferocious beasts in the area to go into hibernation. Some people trembled violently and space froze. It's Grandma Silverflower. She's here to help Tianwu Academy. Outside Tianwu Academy, many eyes were filled with astonishment. High up in the night sky, there was a luminous moonlight floating. An elderly figure could be faintly seen within the luminous moonlight. It was the guardian of the Dark Forest, Grandma Silverflower. Grandma Silverflower, if you want to interfere, let's see if you have the strength to do so. Huge waves rose from the sea of blood and swept across the sky. A terrifying aura spread across the sky as though it wanted to devour the entire world. This is not the place for you, blood demon, to do evil. The old and gentle voice sounded from within the bright moonlight. The bright moonlight was dazzling and resplendent. Its pressure spread out and layers of bright moonlight erupted, resisting the huge waves of the sea of blood. Waves of terrifying pressure wreaked havoc within the sea of blood. Resplendent runes spread across the sky, causing the hearts of the surrounding living beings to tremble and their souls to tremble. Rumble. When the two energies collided, it instantly caused the space to distort to the point of collapse. The sea of blood rippled and whistled as the bright moonlight descended and illuminated the surroundings. Du Xiaofu supported his body with the tyrant shadow in his hand as he looked at the sky. His eyes were scarlet red as he circulated the golden rocks cultivation technique and refined the medicinal pills to recover his energy. The golden talisman runes on the surface of his body flickered and gradually healed the wounds on his body. Sect Master, Vice Sect Master, Grand Elder, save me? Ah, not far away in the sky. The blood-red claw did not have the time to interfere in the sea of flames. This caused the three dark nether sects Martial King realm cultivators in the sea of flames to be unable to withstand the terrifying heat. The three Martial King realm cultivators who were originally besieging Du Shaoqing had their defenses completely destroyed by the flames. The three of them activated their Meridian Souls to resist the pressure, but it was of no use. Their Meridian Souls were afraid of the pressure. After that, their bodies were enveloped by the flames and were directly swallowed into the huge green-red bird's mouth. Rumble. The monstrous flames dissipated and the high temperature gradually disappeared. The three extraordinary Martial King realm cultivators had completely disappeared. Chi. In the depths of the night, a thunderbolt suddenly streaked across the sky. A wave of endless destructive aura rose in many people's hearts. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the sky. When the thunderbolt arrived, it caused something in his body to fluctuate for no reason. It was a familiar feeling. The thunderbolt was getting closer and closer. People could see that it was a figure with lightning radiance around his body. The radiance around his entire body was like a miniature lightning ball. The surrounding lightning radiance flickered like silver snakes and enveloped his entire body, causing people to be unable to see his appearance clearly. The figure was accompanied by a terrifying destructive and domineering pressure. After that, as if there was no one around, he instantly swept to the sky above the heavenly martial talisman realm square that was in a mess and looked like ruins. Boom! After that, the thunderbolt figure swept into the ancient stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm that was currently closed. After that, the figure strangely disappeared. At this moment, Du Xiaofu could feel that the entire space and earth trembled slightly. After that, everything returned to normal. Everyone saw that the strange figure wrapped in lightning had disappeared into the heavenly martial talisman realm. They were extremely surprised and a little stunned. However, no one knew what had happened. Someone has interfered. Let's end this quickly. Shui Yao's sharp and bloody words suddenly rolled out from the sea of blood. Kill. Immediately, the people from Dark Nether sect attacked even more fiercely. That brat is strange. Let's kill him first. The two Dark Nether sect's martial monarchs were severely injured by the explosion of Zhou Courtyard's old spiritual cauldron. However, they had not completely lost their strength. Their eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu and the tyrant shadow in Du Xiaofu's hand. The two of them looked at each other. Their battered bodies were riddled with scars. Their gazes and auras slowly locked onto Du Xiaofu. Brother. Du Xiaoqing's gigantic green-red bird hovered above Du Xiaofu. It stared at the two severely injured Dark Nether sect's martial monarchs. Its blazing aura erupted as it tried to protect Du Xiaofu. The Beast King Realm's Nirvana Realm. This is the legendary Baifeng Divine Bird. If we can obtain the secret bone beast energy, it'll be even more powerful than that Dao weapon. Does everyone want to see the sexy and seductively Shui of Tianwu Academy? You can add little Yu's WeChat account, YF, and send Li Shui to see it. It's the last day of the month. In tomorrow's chapter, our pig trotter Du Xiaofu has been hiding some of his ultimate moves. It's time for him to go on a killing spree. Chapter 528. The Dark Nether sect's martial royal realm expert on the left, who was originally fighting Elder Zhou, said to the person on the right, "I'll deal with the Baifeng Divine Bird. You deal with the kid. Let's end this quickly." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately pounced on Du Xiaoqing. At this moment, the Baifeng Divine Bird threw a punch out, causing the space to tremble. Its fist was surrounded by cold and sharp talisman inscriptions. Dazzling talisman inscriptions burst out, and its terrifying aura caused people's souls to tremble. In an instant, it enveloped Du Xiaoqing. Brother, be careful. Du Xiaoqing flapped her wings. The wings on her back that looked like a rock, a phoenix, and a luan flapped fiercely. Scorching heat accompanied by a strong wind blew, causing sand and stones to fly. A terrifying flaming vortex appeared and swept forward rapidly. Walala! Wherever the flaming vortex passed, it could destroy everything. The surrounding space was distorted, and the ground below was crushed into dust. It also blocked the former's punch. So powerful. Du Xiaoqing's attack caused the former's expression to change drastically. He did not dare to take it head-on and quickly retreated. The terrifying flaming vortex was like a high-temperature hurricane that could destroy everything. Dark Nether Seal. Immediately after, the former shouted and formed a seal with his hands. The talisman inscriptions erupted, and a cold aura filled the sky as it continuously attacked the flaming vortex. Rumble. The two forces collided, causing a large area of the mountain to collapse. Huge rocks rolled down, and dust flew everywhere. It was a terrifying scene. Du Xiaoqing could kill 3 extraordinary Martial King Realm experts. However, although her opponent was a severely injured Martial Royal Realm expert, he was still not someone a Martial King Realm expert could easily compare to. Therefore, she could not do anything at the moment. However, the Martial Royal Realm expert was severely injured and could not do anything to Du Xiaoqing. Kid, it's over. In a short instant, almost as soon as the former attacked, the remaining severely injured Martial Royal Realm expert pounced on Du Xiaofu like a ghost. A claw fell from the sky, and the talisman inscriptions distorted the space. Its aura was terrifying. Qi, the Eagle King's gong saber hurriedly cut through the air and collided with a claw, protecting Du Xiaofu. The two claws collided with each other. The Eagle King's gong saber's claws were destroyed right away, and the defense on his right hand was destroyed. Blood gushed out, and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere, revealing his white bones. His body was sent flying, unable to withstand the attack of a martial emperor. Brat, no one can save you. The former sneered and arrived before Du Xiaofu in an unobstructed manner, and then he clawed down once more, causing space to distort as he intended to crush Du Xiaofu into a bloody mist. "Kid, run." The lightning racing king appeared like a shadow. He wanted to protect Du Xiaofu, this extraordinary young man of the Tianwu Academy, and leave behind the inheritance for the Tianwu Academy. He punched out, wrapped in talisman, with a force as fast as thunder. It collided with the claw of the martial royal realm expert. Bang! A low muffled sound rang out as the collision caused the space to resound with resounding clangs. Energy erupted as large amounts of runes were shattered. Crack, crack. However, the layer of armor on the lightning racing king's body cracked. He spat out blood and was sent flying. The lightning racing king was also unable to withstand the attack of a martial royal realm expert, but he was in a much better condition than the Eagle King's Gong Saber. At this moment, Du Xiaofu, who was using the dominating shadow to support his body, suddenly raised his head. His body was glowing with golden brilliance as he refined a large amount of energy from the elixirs in his body. His body, which was riddled with wounds and dripping with blood, was completely healed by the flickering light of the light golden talisman engravings. Then, the dominating shadow in his hand suddenly returned to his body. Crack, crack, crack. Du Xiaofu put down the purple cloth wrapped around the broadsword-like object that he had been carrying on his back. The tip of the sword fell on the ground. Suddenly, cracks spread across the messy ground, as if the ground was collapsing and trembling. The martial royal realm cultivator, who had just sent the lightning racing king flying, suddenly felt this aura. He immediately looked at Du Xiaofu in surprise and stopped moving. At this moment, Du Xiaofu held the sword hilt wrapped in a purple cloth with one hand and clenched his fist with the other. His eyes were bloodshot as he leaped into the air. Golden light burst out from his back, and an overbearing aura soared into the sky. A pile of golden talisman engravings flapped as Du Xiaofu rose into the air. He held the strange broadsword wrapped in a purple cloth tightly and began to infuse his qi into it. Boom! Just as Du Xiaofu infused his qi into the broadsword, the entire space suddenly trembled violently. Cracks appeared on the messy ground below. Buzz, buzz. In Du Xiaofu's hand, the broadsword wrapped in a purple cloth began to emit light. It was like a divine light spreading out from the talisman engravings. The light became more and more dazzling. Faint cries of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles resounded in this part of the world. Howl, howl. The cries of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles became louder and louder, shaking people's souls. Accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder, there were cries of ghosts and gods gushing out from the void. Crack, crack. The cracks on the ground became bigger and bigger, one after another, like a spider web. Many ancient buildings in the distance collapsed and many mountains cracked. At this moment, in this part of the world, countless eyes trembled and felt inexplicably uneasy. Their gazes seemed to have followed something and landed on Du Xiaofu's body. Everyone's hearts trembled and their souls felt uneasy. They could faintly feel that everything seemed to be coming from Du Xiaofu, but they did not know what had happened. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air. The golden wings of the talisman engravings on his back flapped, making the sound of wind and thunder. His whole body was surrounded by golden light, like the sun, and his eyes were bloodshot. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and the purple cloth around the broadsword in his hand turned into ashes and disappeared. A dazzling light erupted like a suppressed volcano. Woo-woo. In an instant, astonishing and dazzling mysterious runes soared into the sky. Wind and thunder rumbled in this part of the world, and the cries of ghosts and gods were like the roars of gods and demons. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A terrifying demonic aura swept out, and the whole world trembled. Many mountains in the distance shook violently and finally collapsed. The surrounding space was distorted and shattered. The terrifying scene was like the arrival of destruction. At this moment, purple and gold light bloomed in the sky. The purple-gold heavenly tower appeared, and the god of weapons was peerless in the sky. Everyone's eyes trembled. A broadsword appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. It was entirely purple and gold, with the bones of a tiger and the shape of a dragon. The tip of the sword was slightly sharp, and from the two sides of the sword hilt, there were perfect mysterious runes that extended to the middle of the sword. It was like the wings of a phoenix, wanting to spread its wings and soar into the sky. Howl, howl. The peerless divine weapon was in the sky, and the cries of dragons and turtles were like the azure dragon soaring into the sky. The black tortoise was entrenched, and the tiger beast on the sword hilt was roaring ferociously. It was indescribably shocking. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At the same time, with the birth of such a peerless divine weapon, the surrounding mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. A terrifying aura descended in the whole space, causing people's souls to tremble. Oh my God, what kind of divine weapon is that? So Du Xiaofu has been carrying a peerless divine weapon on his back all this time. Everyone was shocked. The divine weapon was so powerful that it was like a peerless demon had awakened, looking down on the world and destroying everything. At this moment, even the eyes of old man Yin Ming, Shui Yao, and the supreme elder Qing Yu, who were fighting fiercely, trembled. Within the moon-like ball of light, the old and blurry body also trembled slightly at this moment. Boom! The purple-gold heavenly tower appeared, emitting a dazzling light. It formed a purple and gold spatial vortex, causing the world to shake. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Within the purple-gold heavenly tower, a terrifying demonic aura rippled crazily, swallowing the surrounding energy of heaven and earth. Under this crazy absorption, the surrounding people also felt that the qi in their bodies was about to be swallowed by the purple and gold vortex. Those cultivators with lower strength directly prostrated themselves on the ground. Within the energy vortex, the demonic aura swept out like a hurricane. The extremely terrifying demonic aura seemed to have come from the 9 serenities, from the realm of demons. The demonic aura rushed to heaven and earth, causing the sky to collapse. Humph! At this moment, Du Xiaofu also let out a painful groan. The demonic aura from the 9 serenities, from the realm of demons, was like the gate of a reservoir that had been opened. It could not be stopped, surging and pouring out in torrents for thousands of miles, causing Du Xiaofu's soul to almost shatter. Under the terrifying demonic aura, Du Xiaofu's body was about to collapse inch by inch. If it were an ordinary martial marquis, he would have been turned into a bloody mist. Even the body of an ordinary martial king would not be able to withstand it and would be shattered into pieces by the terrifying demonic aura. The revered weapon had already instructed him not to use the purple-gold heavenly palace. Otherwise, he would not be able to control it. But now, Tianwu Academy was facing a calamity. Elder Zhou, the first elder, and countless seniors and juniors who were still alive had died in front of his eyes. This caused Du Xiaofu to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The purple-gold heavenly palace was activated, wanting to protect the academy. Sizzle. Under the terrifying fiendish aura, Du Xiaofu's body surface faintly emitted countless fiendish auras. It was as if his body was about to explode at any time. The pain caused his face to contort in a ferocious manner. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could withstand. But Du Xiaofu managed to withstand it. He gritted his teeth and circulated the golden rock technique in his body. The rock descends to the 9 heavens was activated, suppressing the demonic aura. His mind communicated with the new artifact spirit in the purple-gold heavenly palace, wanting to control it. Quickly kill that brat. Quick, that brat is strange. Finally, old man Yin Ming, who was fighting with the Grand Elder of Qingyu Island, could not bear it anymore. That terrifying divine weapon made him feel uneasy. Chapter 529. The martial emperor regained his senses after hearing old man Yin Ming's shout. Upon seeing the situation, he immediately made his move. Profound qi surged and swept towards Du Xiaofu. Kill! The martial emperor's huge palm pressed down, causing the air to tremble. The cold talisman runes soared into the sky, intending to kill Du Xiaofu with all his might. That terrifying attack instantly reached Du Xiaofu. This was definitely an all-out attack from the severely injured martial emperor. He wanted to kill Du Xiaofu directly. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. The aura of the peerless divine weapon was too terrifying. Under many shocked and worried gazes, the terrifying attack reached Du Xiaofu. Those who offend my Tianwu Academy will be killed without mercy. At this moment, Du Xiaofu suddenly raised his head. In his blood-red eyes, a torrential, baleful aura swept across the sky. The peerless divine weapon in his hand slashed towards the martial emperor. Boom! The sword gleam appeared and drew a thunderous purple-gold arc in the air. It was like a purple-gold lightning bolt that instantly appeared on the martial emperor's huge cold energy palm. The baleful aura swept out like a hurricane. The light was dazzling and contained the might of dragons and tigers. It was so dazzling that no one could look directly at it. Boom! The two energies collided fiercely, causing the entire area to rumble. The entire space trembled as if it was going to overturn the heavens. The dazzling light spread out like a hurricane. Qi-la. Many people narrowed their eyes and saw the terrifying sword gleam passing by. The martial emperor's cold energy palm only managed to block it for a moment before it was destroyed. Woo-woo. The sword qi didn't disperse. It was ferocious. Ghosts were crying and gods were howling. It destroyed everything. A terrifying scene appeared in the sky. Visible cracks appeared in the space. Then, they fell on the body of the Huang Qi layer who had been severely injured. Qi-la-la. When the sword gleam landed, the martial emperor couldn't block it at all. His body was slashed into pieces by the sword gleam, turning into a mist of blood that drifted in the air. A martial emperor was killed with a single sword. Such terrifying power made everyone's hair stand on end, and their hairs stand on end. Goo-goo. Countless gazes looked at the terrifying scene in the sky, and the sound of saliva being swallowed involuntarily appeared in their throats. Buzz. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's resolute and determined face was ferocious, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cruel and cold smile. The golden-winged rock's talisman wings spread out behind him, and a mighty golden wind rushed past like a tornado and golden lightning. It was powerful and terrifying, and its speed was shocking. In an instant, it appeared in front of the seriously injured martial royal realm expert who was entangled with Du Xiaoqing's body. Those who offend our Tianwu Academy shall pay with their blood. The violet gold heavenly tower was swung out again. A sword light swept out, accompanied by the roars of dragons and tigers, as well as the cries of birds and turtles. Dazzling runes bloomed in the sky, as if a peerless fiend god had awakened, enough to destroy everything. Qi-la, the martial royal realm expert, tried his best to defend himself, but his defenses were completely destroyed. Blood spurted out from his mouth as he was suppressed by the sword light. His eyes were filled with fear, and his pupils constricted. In the end, he was unwillingly shattered into pieces, and a mist of blood splattered across the sky. A martial royal realm expert, a legendary expert, was killed with a single sword strike. What kind of terrifying strength was this? With the violet gold heavenly tower in his hand, Du Xiaofu's eyes were deep, and his killing intent soared to the heavens. The talisman wings of the golden-winged rock on his back emitted a golden light, and in the dark night, it was like a bright sun in the sky. Kill! Du Xiaofu shouted. The talisman wings on his back flapped, and a golden storm shook the surroundings. He was like a peerless, ferocious beast, bathed in golden light, and swept the surroundings with his wings. The violet gold heavenly tower in his hand slashed out, and a martial king from the dark nether sect, who was fighting with the king of medicine, was turned into a mist of blood. Kill! The golden wings spread across the sky, and Du Xiaofu's blood-red eyes were filled with killing intent. The sword light flashed, and a martial king from the dark nether sect, who was fighting with the Jinnan king, was killed. Kill! Another sword slashed out, and the sword light was like a thunderbolt. Another martial king from the dark nether sect was killed by the sword. The expressions of the people from the dark nether sect changed, and they were terrified. They were no match for the terrifying purple-robed young man. He still has such a trump card. Tianwu Academy will be saved. The eyes of the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghostchild, Luo Tianqian, Xiang Tianin, Li Yuxiao, and the others trembled. Each of them was covered in blood and wounds, but at this moment, Their eyes were filled with excitement, and their blood was boiling. Du Xiaofu began his massacre, and he killed the people from the Dark Nether sect one by one. The sword light was peerless, and the aura was ferocious. A terrifying aura burst out in this ancient land, and it caused all the people from the Dark Nether sect to retreat with fear in their eyes. Rumble. Du Xiaofu continued to attack. The sword light was like a boundless divine waterfall, and he killed everything in his path. Awu. Du Xiaofu held the peerless divine weapon in his hand, and the cries of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles could be heard. Dazzling runes bloomed around him, and the faint silhouette of an azure dragon, a white tiger, a phoenix flapped its wings, a black tortoise, and a fiend celestial roar could be heard. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was like a fiend celestial that had been born. A peerless, ferocious beast soared through the sky, and he was incomparably powerful as he slaughtered his way through the world. In just a short period of time, at least 8 martial kings and many martial marquises were killed by Du Xiaofu. Coupled with the 2 martial monarchs, this was a devastating blow to the Dark Nether sect. Yinming, quickly use the trump card you prepared. Quickly, raise Tianwu Academy to the ground. Within the rolling blood sea, Shui Yao's sharp and bloody voice suddenly rang out. At this moment, Shui Yao, who was enveloped by the blood sea, was terrified. The purple-robed young man was too terrifying. Sect Master's order, Old Man Yin shouted. At this moment, he was already trembling with fear. Kill. All of a sudden, Du Xiaofu, whose killing intent soared into the sky, looked at the rolling blood sea that shrouded the sky. His blood-red eyes burned fiercely like flames. Rage surged in his eyes, and he emitted a monstrous killing intent as he waved his hand and slashed out with his sword. Boom! A terrifying sword ray tore through the sky, causing heaven and earth to tremble. The dazzling sword ray seemed to have covered the entire sky as it extended toward the blood sea that blotted out the sky and the sun. The blood sea rippled, and in an instant, a gigantic blood-red humanoid figure appeared. Blood gushed out from the surroundings like a waterfall, and its aura was extremely terrifying. A gigantic blood-red hand slammed down and suppressed the terrifying sword ray in Du Xiaofu's hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! In just an instant, the two of them were in a deadlock. The mountain range below crumbled, and golden runes shot up into the sky as blood rained down. Rumble! Old Man Yinming's attack collided with Qing Yu's Supreme Elder. Both of them were pushed back, and Old Man Yinming seized the opportunity to retreat. All Dark Nether sect's disciples, retreat. Old Man Yinming stabilized his body with a cold smile on his face. At the same time, a strange ball of light appeared in his hand. The ball of light flickered faintly, and a domineering and ancient aura could be felt on its surface. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Dark Nether sect's disciples immediately retreated after they broke free from their opponents. At this moment, the people from Tianwu Academy seemed to have sensed something as well. All of them turned to look at the sky. Retreat! Retreat! Qing Yu's Supreme Elder shouted. His eyes trembled as he looked at the ball of light in Old Man Yinming's hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! The people from Tianwu Academy immediately retreated as well. An uneasy aura lingered in the air. It's too late. Heske! Heske! Tianwu Academy will cease to exist. Old Man Yinming sneered as he threw out the strange ball of light in his hand. A terrifying aura of destruction instantly soared into the sky. The dazzling light was like the sun rising from the east, and it illuminated the night sky brighter than the day. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled as the strange ball of light expanded, turning into a huge ball of lightning that resembled a star. Thunderous rumbles resounded in the sky. Silver snakes flickered as resplendent lightning filled the sky. It gave off an incomparably oppressive feeling of destruction. The violent energy spread out, causing one's soul to tremble violently. An indescribable feeling of unease crept up from the depths of many people's souls. Divine lightning sky annihilation. Old Man Yinming sneered. This was the trump card he obtained from the upper echelons. It was powerful enough to destroy everything. As he formed a seal with his hand, thunderous rumbles resounded from the star-like ball of lightning. A terrifying destructive might of lightning spread out. Following that, the ball of lightning spread out. Layers of lightning surged toward Tianwu Academy like a tidal wave. It was as though a thunderstorm was descending. Rumble. In just an instant, the lightning that filled the sky descended upon Tianwu Academy. Many of the Tianwu Academy students were unable to escape in time. The moment their bodies came into contact with the violent lightning, they didn't even have the chance to scream before they were turned into ashes. Only the thunderous rumbles continued to resound in the sky. Pong pong pong. The lightning covered the sky and enveloped Tianwu Academy. Mountains crumbled, rivers were buried under rocks, and countless ancient buildings were reduced to rubble. Crumbling walls filled the sky. This was destruction. Wherever the lightning passed, it would destroy everything in its path. Countless living beings were annihilated. Everyone, retreat. Kings who are supporting the academy, bring some of your students away and leave behind the legacy of the academy. Grand Elder Lu Yu bellowed. Frenzied energy surged out from his skinny body as he activated the bloodline soul of an ancient mutated beast. The bloodline soul turned into a layer of runes that shrouded the sky, fending off the destructive lightning and shielding the students of Tianwu Academy as they retreated. Chapter 530. However, at this moment, even the Supreme Elder of Green Island was unable to withstand the terrifying power of the lightning. Puff, 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 puff. Countless bolts of lightning struck down. Great Elder Qing Yu's aura was getting weaker and weaker. He stepped back and spat out mouthfuls of blood. All students, back off! Vice Principal Zhuge yelled. Spiritual stoves and talisman tripods appeared on the surface of his body, bursting with mysterious runes to resist the lightning. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The remaining elders of the inner house, Elder He Hu, Elder Morong Shi, Elder Liao, and the others all rushed up to the sky. They activated their huge bodies of meridian souls and spiritual stoves and talisman tripods to resist the lightning and protect the students. Hong, long, long. Amidst the rumbling of thunder, thunderbolts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth smashed toward Great Elder Yu, Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong, and the others. Under the destructive attack, everyone's meridian souls weakened. Their spiritual stoves and talisman tripods dimmed. Blood kept flowing out of their mouths. Everyone worked together, but it was still difficult to resist. The terrifying lightning was a forbidden power. It was too destructive. Kings who came to help, take some students and leave. You must leave the legacy for the school. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest in peace. Great Elder Qing Yu yelled. His withered body was shaking and cracking. He had used up all his energy and was burning his life force. Great Elder Qing Yu, take care. Lightning Racing King stepped into the sky and bade farewell with tears in his eyes. He waved his robe and a light twisted the space. He took a dozen students with extraordinary auras and left. Under such circumstances, he had no other choice but to take the most talented students away. Great Elder Qing Yu, take care. Soul-Breaking King, East Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, and the others who came to help all had tears in their eyes. Then they left with General Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, Tang Wu, and Yi Feiyu. Puff, puff. Great Elder Qing Yu and Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong spat out blood. The destructive lightning destroyed everything. They couldn't hold on any longer. Du Xiaofu, think of a way to leave and leave behind a legacy for the academy. Supreme Elder Qing Yu let out a final roar and once again condensed a rune blade light that appeared out of thin air. The cloud surged and the energy wave left a dent in the vacuum. It directly struck the rolling thunderbolts with a force as fast as lightning. Although it shattered a lot of thunderbolts, it was unable to shake the destructive power of the thunderbolts at all. At this moment, Supreme Elder Qing Yu was finally at the end of his tether. His last bit of energy had been exhausted. His body's defenses were destroyed by a bolt of lightning, shattering the sky, and then his skinny body was directly blown to pieces. Bang bang! The vice principal, Zhuge Qiangbong, followed closely behind. His spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron were shattered, and his body was turned into fragments under the bombardment of lightning. Bang, bang, bang. The silver snake shone brightly and the lightning raged. Bolts of lightning roared madly like giant dragons, echoing endlessly in the void. One by one, the inner institute elders were annihilated. Elder Sun Bue, Elder He Hu, Elder Liao, Elder Morong Shi, and the others were smashed into pieces by the lightning and turned into blood mist. Arg, Du Xiaofu, who was in a deadlock with the terrifying sea of blood, saw the souls of the living faces being destroyed one after another before his eyes. Even the Supreme Elder Qing Yu and Vice Principal Zhuge Changbong were destroyed. He immediately let out a sorrowful cry, as if something had ripped out his heart and cut through his blood vessels. It was a heart-wrenching cry of grief. A woo, as if it had been affected by Du Xiaofu's grief and fury. A tiger roared, a bird chirped, and a turtle chirped from the heavenly palace of purplish gold. An azure dragon, a white tiger, a phoenix, and a black tortoise appeared, destroying the blood-red palm with a baleful aura. It shocked the colossal figure in the sea of blood. At the same time, the baleful aura above the heavenly palace of purplish gold surged once more. It was so overwhelming that even Du Xiaofu found it hard to withstand it. Large mouthfuls of blood spurted out from his mouth as the baleful aura wreaked havoc in his body, corroding his soul. For those who haven't added Xiao Yu's WeChat account, you can search for Yufeng YF on Xiao Yu's WeChat account. After adding him, enter Li Shui, and you'll be able to see the pictures. In the future, we'll be releasing pictures of Du Xiaofu, Xiaolong, Lu Jingyun, Lu Wushuang, Lu Xiaoyu, and the others. After destroying the Supreme Elder of Qingyu and the others, the terrifying lightning spread across the sky and swept toward the students who were trying to hide in Tianwu Academy. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever the lightning passed, the ground cracked, mountains crumbled, and a large number of students were destroyed. It was a tragic sight. Everything was destroyed. Everyone, run. Right at this moment, Du Xiaofu bellowed. As soon as he finished his words, his figure appeared amidst the frenzied lightning. Forming a hand seal, Du Xiaofu spurted a mouthful of blood and forcefully carried the heavenly palace of purplish gold on his back. The illusory figures of the azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, black tortoise, and black tortoise continued to revolve around him. Golden profound chi burst forth from his body, and the golden runic wings on his back expanded to a size of over 100 zhong in order to defend against the frenzied lightning. In just a short period of time, Du Xiaofu's flesh was lacerated under the bombardment of the destructive lightning. Fresh blood flowed from his body. With his defenses destroyed, the runic wings on his back began to crack and shatter. The terrifying lightning was sufficient to destroy even a martial emperor expert. How could Du Xiaofu withstand it? Boom! The illusory figure of 5 mountains appeared around Du Xiaofu. The sound of wind, lightning, and spiritual energy permeated the air, connecting with the energy of heaven and earth, and continued to defend against the lightning. Bang bang! However, Du Xiaofu was still unable to withstand it. The illusory figure of the 5 mountains lost its strength and was shattered in an instant. Finally, Du Xiaofu's aura weakened and dissipated under the destructive power of the vast and terrifying thunderbolts. He closed his eyes as the thunderbolts wreaked havoc within his body, causing him to fall unconscious. Senior Du. In Tianwu Academy, tears streamed down the faces of the students. The destructive lightning was sufficient to destroy everything, but the purple-robed young man was still willing to use his physical body to defend against the lightning, allowing them to escape first. Junior Du, I'll lend you a hand. All of the ladies, escape first. Junior Du, I'll lend you a hand. Tears rolled down their cheeks as sorrowful cries echoed in the air. Some of the seniors of Tianwu Academy soared into the sky. Even though they couldn't withstand a single blow, they still wanted to help Du Xiaofu block the lightning and protect their juniors. Bang bang bang. Under the lightning, the students of Tianwu Academy were too weak. They couldn't withstand a single blow. Even so, there was still a steady stream of students who charged forward, wanting to help Du Xiaofu. Blood splattered everywhere, and countless heroic souls dissipated. Ah, Sorrowful cries immediately rang out from this ancient land. The wind and trees were filled with sorrow, creating a sad song that was full of sorrow. As the tragic melody spread out, those who heard it felt as though their hearts were being sliced by a knife. They were heartbroken, and tears flowed down their cheeks. Hong long long. Under the bombardment of lightning, Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut as his body floated in midair. All of a sudden, a mysterious energy that had been hibernating on the surface of his body awakened, releasing a mysterious glow. Streaks of mysterious light leaped out and connected with his meridians and blood vessels. When these mysterious streaks of light gathered together, a terrifying aura emanated from Du Xiaofu's body. An ancient aura descended, and the aura grew stronger and stronger. A domineering and destructive aura was awakening and surging. Chi Lala. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the terrifying lightning released by the terrifying lightning sphere in the sky seemed to be attracted by something. Streaks of lightning gathered together and surged toward Du Xiaofu. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the terrifying lightning roared crazily. It was as though countless lightning pythons were charging toward Du Xiaofu. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't harmed by the violent attacks at all. On the contrary, the violent lightning seemed to have been devoured by Du Xiaofu, completely enveloping Du Xiaofu. Hong long long. In that instant, the terrifying lightning no longer engulfed the entire Tianwu Academy. Instead, it was absorbed into Du Xiaofu's body. Streaks of lightning wreaked havoc for several dozen zhong, causing Du Xiaofu's body to resemble a ball of lightning that bloomed with silver snakes. A terrifying aura lingered in the sky. How could this be? This unforeseen event caused Old Man Yiming, Shui Yao, and the others to tremble in fear. That terrifying lightning destruction was actually affected by such a strange thing. Hong long. At this moment, the ground trembled for no reason. In such a bloody and intense battle, not many people paid special attention to it. Everywhere was razed to the ground and turned into ruins. Only the Tianwu Talisman realm remained intact. And now, the ancient stone door of the Tianwu Talisman realm started to tremble after the lightning figure forcefully entered. Boom! Suddenly, the ancient stone door opened and a lightning figure charged out like a ball of lightning. It was the lightning figure that had charged into the Tianwu Talisman realm earlier. However, this person's aura seemed to be dispirited. Chi. The instant this person appeared with lightning wrapped around him, a pair of eyes filled with dazzling lightning within the ball of lightning landed on Du Xiaofu, who was wrapped in the ball of lightning. Astonishment appeared in his eyes. Within the Tianwu Talisman realm, outside the ancient stone door, as the lightning figure rushed out, another figure appeared. As that figure appeared, it was as if the entire world had frozen in silence. I've been working through the night to write these 3 chapters. This war is related to the secret intervention of more than 5 superpowers, so I'm exhausted. I've also written a lot of chapters. When I write about the fall of the Grand Elders of Green Island, I'm also heartbroken. I hope to be able to touch everyone's hearts. That's right. It's the last day of the month. Brothers, check the fresh flowers and see if there are any fresh flowers that haven't been posted yet. How about this? The fresh flowers are currently ranked 3rd on the monthly rankings. If the fresh flowers can reach 2nd place on the monthly rankings today, Xiaoyu will update 4 chapters every day for the next month. If he reaches 1st place, he will update 5 chapters every day. Of course, if it's time, I still have to let Xiaoyu rest on Sunday. He just wanted some pressure to update. Pressure was motivation, and there was no other purpose. Could he update 5 chapters every day for the next month? It was equivalent to other people erupting every day. He asked readers to support him together. Xiaoyu also wanted to crazily update for a month next month to restore the fighting strength of the past. In addition, according to the usual practice, on the 1st of tomorrow, there would naturally be a burst of fresh flowers. Xiaoyu should sleep for a while, and then prepare for tomorrow's burst at the beginning of the month. Chapter 531. Following the appearance of this figure, an ancient aura slowly spread out from the stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm. One could faintly see a vast and mighty aura spreading out from the hazy space behind the stone door. The ancient aura was vast and boundless, causing one to unconsciously feel reverence from the depths of their soul. The figure was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His black hair reached his shoulders, and he could not be considered handsome. However, his face was very clean, causing one to feel a sense of cleanliness when looking at his face. When they saw the figure of this person, many people from the Tianwu Academy were astonished. The black-haired man in front of them was originally the person who had been sleeping on a large rock beside the stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm. Following the appearance of this middle-aged man, the figure wrapped in lightning revealed a look of fear. His dispirited aura fluctuated as he shifted his gaze away from Du Xiaofu, who was wrapped in lightning, and rapidly streaked across the sky to leave. The lightning figure had appeared in a strange manner and left in a strange manner as well. He did not affect anyone and did not interfere with anything. It was as though he had never appeared before. However, everyone clearly saw him before. In front of the ancient stone door of the heavenly martial talisman realm, the middle-aged man looked at the lightning figure that had escaped and did not give chase. His gaze then landed on Du Xiaofu, who was currently wrapped in a torrent of destructive lightning. Astonishment and surprise appeared in his eyes on his clean face. Walala! Silver pythons wreaked havoc around the destructive lightning ball, causing one's heart to palpitate uneasily. However, in just a short period of time, the terrifying lightning that was terrifying enough to destroy the entire Tianwu Academy gradually poured into Du Xiaofu's body. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was like a bottomless pit, completely devouring the vast destructive lightning into his body. However, Du Xiaofu had already fainted. His body floated in midair, and lightning flickered faintly within his body. It was like a silver snake slithering about, spreading out a destructive aura. How could this be? This is impossible. Old man Yinming's figure floated in midair as his body trembled violently. Fear flickered in his eyes. The divine lightning sky annihilation was powerful enough to annihilate all living beings in Tianwu Academy. Even martial emperors wouldn't be able to withstand it. This was the forbidden trump card he had brought with him this time to ensure that he could annihilate Tianwu Academy. However, at this moment, the frightening thunderbolt of the divine lightning sky annihilation was actually directly absorbed by the frightening and strange purple-robed young man. This was too frightening, causing old man Yinming to be involuntarily shocked. If it was a martial royal realm cultivator who had reached the completion realm, his body would have exploded 10 times. However, the young man's body was still in good condition. Old man Yinming felt extremely uneasy and terrified as the ancient aura spread out. Rumble. All of a sudden, the Tianwu Academy that was in a mess began to tremble, especially the Tianwu Talisman Zone. Rumbling noises resounded incessantly in the ruined plaza, as though something was about to erupt. Voila! Within the ancient stone gate of the Tianwu Talisman Zone, the runes within the rippling light fluctuated. A spatial crack spread out like a wave of air as a dazzling light appeared. The ancient and boundless aura became more and more astonishing, dignified, and majestic, as though it was inviolable. Everyone's gazes were astonished as they looked over. It seemed like the heaven martial talisman was trembling. At that moment, in front of the ancient stone door, the clean, middle-aged man's figure silently disappeared as well, as if he had never appeared. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions resounded, causing the earth to tremble and the mountains to crumble. Countless mountains in the distance collapsed, and huge rocks were turned into dust. Countless gusts of wind rose up from the ground, and deep ravines extended out from the depths of the valley. It was as though everything was about to be destroyed. Rumble. The entire plaza of the Tianwu Talisman Zone caved in. The ravines on the ground separated, and large patches of dazzling runes disappeared. This terrifying aura was especially terrifying. Even the sea of blood in the sky was rippling violently. That terrifying aura was simply too frightening. It was impossible for people not to feel pressured and in awe. Swoosh, swoosh. In the dark night sky, 2 figures streaked across the sky from afar. Suddenly, the 2 figures stopped in midair as they looked in the direction of Tianwu Academy, where the mountains were crumbling and the earth was crumbling. The face of the young lady in the lead changed drastically. She was a young lady around 6 to 7 years old, probably not even 18 yet. She was dressed in a light green dress that outlined her youthful curves. Two strands of pitch-black hair by her cheeks fluttered gently in the wind, adding to her allure. However, at this moment, her eyes suddenly turned grave. Young mistress, something has happened in Tianwu Academy. It seems like someone couldn't hold back and decided to make a move on Tianwu Academy. Behind the young lady, there was an ordinary-looking old man with a staggering body. He looked at the crumbling Tianwu Academy in front of him, which was as bright as day. On his aged face, there was a pair of eyes that resembled the swirling stars. Under the influence of the invisible aura emanating from the old man, the surrounding space seemed to be affected as well. It was as though he was the sovereign of this world. Voila! Amidst the crumbling of the plaza, a dazzling light started to emanate from the ravine, creating a dazzling sight. The light was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. It felt as though the light had traversed through space, giving off a mystical feeling. It felt as though the light was traveling through space and time. It was extremely profound, after which the light rippled through the air, causing the space to fluctuate. The dazzling light slowly receded, and everything returned to normal. After everything disappeared, the ancient land of Tianwu Academy seemed to have turned from day to night. Only the blood sea and the luminous moon in the sky were still emanating light. At this moment, the entire celestial martial talisman realm that stood tall in Tianwu Academy also exploded and disappeared. The ground caved in and the celestial martial talisman realm ceased to exist. Even the surrounding mountain range was razed to the ground. Senior Du is gone. When everything returned to normal, someone realized that Du Xiaofu, who was floating in midair and enduring the destructive lightning alone, had disappeared without a trace. Senior Du must have been reduced to a mist of blood and endured the destructive lightning alone. How could he still be alive? Senior Du. Among the fleeing students of Tianwu Academy, there were some who cried in grief, "Elder brother!" Roar. Du Xiaoqing, who had already reverted back to her original form, had tears in her eyes. At this moment, she couldn't sense her elder brother's presence. He had disappeared completely. The little tiger roared. Its ferocious black body was riddled with wounds and fresh blood was dripping from it. It was in a miserable state after being surrounded in the intense battle. Did you see the guild leader? The Eagle King Gong Dao was riddled with wounds. His right arm was almost crippled, and his face was pale. He asked the Medicine King, who was also in a miserable state. I didn't see him clearly. The Medicine King Yi Wuming's eyes trembled. At this moment, blood was dripping from the corner of his lips. Due to the dazzling light, no one could look straight at him. Yin Ming, eliminate the source of trouble and find that thing. Within the blood sea, the blood demon bellowed. However, he was being held back by Grandma Silverflower. Even though he wasn't afraid of her, it was still difficult for him to break free. Old Man Yin's face was cold. He knew the main task of this mission. If he failed, he also knew the consequences. His heart was filled with fear. As such, Old Man Yin didn't dare to slack off. With a wave of his hand, many universe bags that were locked onto by his aura flew into his hand. They were the universe bags left behind by the Grand Elder of Qingyu Island, Vice Principal Zhuge Qiangbong, and the others who were destroyed by the Divine Lightning Annihilation. Just a bunch of small fries. Let's cut the weeds and dig up the roots. Old Man Yin's cold and indifferent voice rang out. Out of the 7,000 to 8,000 Tianwu Academy students, less than 2,000 of them had fled in all directions. Kill. There weren't many Dark Nether sect members left. However, in terms of cultivation, they were much stronger than the Tianwu Academy students. When they heard Old Man Yin's words, they regained their senses from the fear in their eyes and continued to charge toward the Tianwu Academy students. Let's fight it out with these bastards and avenge the elders. Let's fight it out with them and avenge Senior Du. The remaining students were agitated. Their grief was unbearable, and they wanted to fight to the death. Everyone, run. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices. The Medicine King bellowed. He appeared in front of the group and attacked the Dark Nether sect members with all his might. Chi. In midair, A graceful figure suddenly streaked across the sky and landed on the ground. Her dress fluttered in the wind, accentuating her slender figure. Along with the surging of mysterious runes, she exuded an otherworldly aura. Several Tianwu Academy students who had just charged forward were instantly killed by the mysterious runes. Qi Yeshi. Junior sister Qi Yeshi is back. The elders were killed by them. Senior sister Qi Yeshi, avenge the elders. Looking at the alluring figure that had suddenly appeared, the remaining Tianwu Academy students roared. It was as though they had seen a ray of hope.